going to ask for a motion and second to return to open session at 5:51 PM.
So moved.
I'm sorry, who said that?
Nina.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second, Sophie.
Let me just do a voice vote.
Yeah, you
call.
can do that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll move. We have some
I'm sorry.
action items following our closed sessions. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve a settlement agreement and release with former student 824 as discussed in closed session.
Hang on a second.
That's a motion.
I'm going to ask for a
Oh,
motion.
yeah. Deshmukh so moved.
Sophie, second.
Roll call, please.
Wait, hang on, I'm trying to put it in here. What was this, the number, 824?
824, today's date.
And who motioned? I was putting the motion in, so I didn't get the first and second.
Rahul motion
Rahul.
and
Jean.
Jean second.
Second.
Thank you. Okay. Deshmukh,
Aye.
Fliegel,
Aye.
Cotwall,
Aye.
Poland,
Aye.
Simpson,
Aye.
Sophie,
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay, now it's two, now we're at two. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to ask for a motion to approve settlement agreement and release with Jane Doe as discussed in closed session.
Poland, so moved.
Second.
I'm sorry, who did first? You guys went too fast. for me. Sorry. Poland,
Simpson.
Simpson. Okay. Cotwall,
Aye.
Poland,
Aye.
Simpson,
Aye.
Sophie,
Abstain.
Austin,
Aye.
Deshmukh.
Aye.
Did I get Fliegel? No, Fliegel.
Aye.
Did I get everybody? No. Yeah, okay.
So I'm going to ask for a motion
Wait, where's the next item?
to adopt a resolution authorizing contractual process for a proposed discharge for cause for Administrator Brian Kelly, whereas the Board of Education of Community High School District 128, the board is empowered to manage and operate the schools of the district, whereas the board entered into an administrative contract, the administrator contract with Brian Kelly, or Kelly, for him to serve in the role of Associate Superintendent at the district from July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2029, whereas the administrator contract includes a dismissal process for discharge for cause, which provides that discharge for cause shall be based on conduct which is prejudicial to the school district, including but not limited to neglect of duty or breach of contract, whereas the district's administration has received notice that Kelly engaged in alleged misconduct which may warrant discharge for cause under the administrator contract, whereas the district's administration has conducted a full review and permitted Kelly the opportunity to respond as part of its review of his alleged misconduct, and whereas the administrator contract provides that reasons for a proposed discharge for cause shall be given in writing to Kelly, and Kelly shall be entitled to appear before the board to discuss such causes, and that such meeting shall be conducted in closed session. Now therefore be it resolved by the board as follows. Section 1, that the superintendent is authorized and directed in conformance with the administrator contract to serve or cause to be served on Kelly the reasons for a proposed discharge for cause, and to notify him that he is entitled to appear before the board to discuss such reasons. Service is to be effectuated by sending the reasons and notice to Kelly via email and by certified mail, return receipt requested. Section 2, that the board's legal counsel is authorized and directed in conformance with the administrator contract to schedule Kelly's appearance before the board to occur at a special board meeting to discuss the reasons for a proposed discharge for cause. And Section 3, that the superintendent and/or the board's legal counsel is authorized and directed to prepare or cause to be prepared and issue or cause to be issued such other additional notices and documentation as may be necessary in order to effectuate Kelly's appearance before the board to discuss the reasons for a proposed discharge for cause. Section 4, this resolution shall be in full force and effect upon its adoption. Adopted this 24th of August, 2026 by the following roll call vote.
So moved.
Need a
Motion Flegel.
Second, Poland.
Cotwall,
aye.
Poland,
Aye.
Simpson,
Aye.
Sophie,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Deschmok, Fliegel.
Aye.
Okay. Next, we are going to move straight to the communication session. So we are going to start with the committee reports. Finance and Facilities and Policy.
I'll start for, Doug Flegel and I are on the facilities and over other parts of business committee. It's important that the board has information to keep it updated as we work on policies. We have superintendent oversight. While we do not actually administer day-to-day, we do have oversight. So knowing the facts of what's going on with our facilities and our fiscal management is really important. It helps us in monitoring the goals that our superintendent has set, and it also shows the community that we're representing our stakeholders. So Doug and I met with Deanne Stanley, who went through quite a few things with us. Doug and I will be sharing the committee, so he'll be reporting out next month. Dan, you want to go ahead and get us started?
Yeah, this was our first. So the first thing we talked about was how this committee is going to run and structure and things like that. And recognizing this is relatively new for us to run it this way, and so we're going to figure this out as we go. The next item we talked about was a reduction in force for LHS registered nurse, which will be discussed later this evening at this meeting. The next, we went through an intergovernmental agreement with the Central Suburban League, which is also going to be up for discussion approval at this meeting as well. We looked at digital scoreboards, which also will be at this meeting tonight. We discussed a pool update, which will be at this meeting tonight. We talked about the resolution for an attorney assigned for tax assessments challenges, which will also be for tonight. We talked about briefly about strategic plan priority 4 review, which will be discussed tonight with the rest of the strategic plan. And we discussed briefly the FY27 budget, which will also be on for tonight. And that was our list.
So the second committee, I'm going to ask, we had 2 board members. I'll ask Wes to give an overview of what we discussed, or I'll provide that, but if you want to talk briefly about the policy committee.
Okay. Julie, I think you would,
Yeah.
yeah, Julie will do it this month.
So we met about a week ago Friday, and it was the first policy committee meeting. Wes and I are on that committee. At that time, we discussed press issues 121 and 122, which I'm going to turn over to Dan for a higher level explanation of it. But as going forward, press comes out anywhere, I would say, between 2 and 4 times a year typically. So on those off months, we will be discussing and reviewing other policies going forward. Dan?
So I'll actually take the high level. So as Board Member Simpson shared, quarterly, the IASB Press Plus comes up with a series of policies for boards of education to consider and adopt. And so this time we looked at 2 tranches. We looked at Press Plus issue number 121 and then Press Plus issue 122. In total, there were approximately 46 total policies for the board to review, and we actually, as a committee, went through all 46 of them. The vast majority of them had very minor changes. Some of it was just a few language changes, maybe punctuation, legal references that might be updated to most current 2026 since they were most adopted. So I would say that was the majority of the policies that we looked through. Several of them, and I think there was about 4 of them that we are going to refer to legal for them to review and posit the proposals of Press Plus with our current board policy to see and determine current alignment with our current practices. So we are currently awaiting legal review in those areas. And there are also 2 or 3 policies this evening that we do have a portion of our agenda during discussion that we will discuss in further detail that will be facilitated by Board Member Pullen and Simpson, and so that will come later. So the majority of our meeting, again, was spent reviewing the 46 updated policies. These, again, come out quarterly. We also talked about the IGA, the Intergovernmental Agreement with the CSL, a lot of acronyms, Central Suburban League. And so that is a resolution adoption that we'll be asking the board to act on. And that has to do with Vernon Hills' participation in the CSL, Central Suburban League. Interestingly, our district, our 2 high schools are in different leagues. These are athletic leagues. So Libertyville is in the NSC, or the North Suburban League, and Vernon Hills is in the CSL. So the schools, the districts that caucus in the CSL are all forming an IGA, Intergovernmental Agreement, and that will be before the board for consideration.
Next up, we have an invitation for public comment. We have a couple people signed up. We have Laura Weber.
Good evening. My name is Laura Weber, and I am a Libertyville resident. My oldest son graduated from LHS in 2025, and I have boy-girl twins who are currently in 8th grade at Highland Middle School. As we begin another school year, I think it's important to look honestly at where District 128 is, not just where the district says it's going, but what we've learned in recent years. Now, we know the district consistently ranks among the top high school districts in the area, and it's easy to understand why. We live in a very highly educated community, we have very engaged families, and many exceptional teachers. But high rankings don't mean that there aren't serious problems. And the success of our students should not be confused with the quality of leadership running this district. Nearly 3 years ago, a few of us began advocating for gender equity in LHS athletics. I never thought I would still be here talking about it. We came to this district with specific, documented concerns and expected administrators to take an honest look at them, make a real plan for change, and fix what was wrong. But that's not what happened. We were told we were wrong. We were given information that was misleading, inaccurate, incomplete, and listened to administrators defend what they were doing. At that point, this stopped being about Title IX. It became about the leadership of this district. Agree or disagree with us about gender equity or booster clubs, I think we all expect our administrators to do their jobs, follow the law, tell the truth, and hold each other to the highest of standards. Instead, we've watched the same pattern: defend, deflect, and delay. Meetings, reports, paperwork, vague action plans that create the appearance of progress. And after nearly 3 years, this doesn't look like delay anymore. It looks like certain administrators never had any intention of making meaningful change, and this board needs to start asking why. And that brings me to Dr. Schaefer. Now, while I am very encouraged about the news of Bryant Kelly this evening, I do have concerns about our interactions with you over the past year. Now, I know you didn't create these problems, and that's why we had hope when you arrived, but more than a year later, through our interactions and meetings with you, you've seemed more interested in protecting the status quo than challenging it. And Bryant Kelly's a perfect example. We sounded the alarm about him well before the Parker Rohde lawsuit became public. We documented serious concerns about whether this administrator entrusted with Title IX could properly and impartially investigate complaints, including allegations as serious as sexual harassment and assault. We asked you for an independent review. You didn't investigate, you defended him. You told me you were at a loss as to why Kelly's role concerned me and declared there was nothing inappropriate about his involvement. And this wasn't an offhand conversation. This was your official written response to me on District 128 letterhead. And this administrator you so confidently defended was placed on paid administrative leave and now subsequently fired. I hope that gives you some pause. Now, I know tonight's agenda includes a new three-year strategic plan, and that's great. I think every few years we probably do this, but we don't need another 3 years of plans and new taglines to address problems.
Laura, just to make sure that everyone gets a chance, we have a 3-minute limit.
Okay. Problems literally sitting right in front of us. We need real action. We need a superintendent willing to make tough decisions and clean house where necessary and hold this district to the highest of standards. Thank you.
Next up, we have Susan.
Hi, my name's Susan Van Boning. I'm a Libertyville resident. I had 2 Libertyville graduates. 3 years ago, Laura Weber, Jeanette Hyam, and myself started asking some questions about Title IX and sports equity at LHS. We were immediately told that we were wrong. We were immediately given documents that were incorrect, but Bryant Kelly did come forth and say, we're going to do a Title IX audit and figure out what's going on here at the price of $20,000 that we didn't ask for, because we knew that the questions that we were asking were correct and that D128 was not following the law. The documents that I just gave you are the action plans that were presented by you guys to the public of steps that were going to be taken by you and by your administration on behalf of our stakeholders for transparency and to ensure gender equity in D128. The first document is the summary of Title IX athletics and the audit. If you want to turn to page 4, we have the outline of concerns, the main concerns. The main concern are the locker rooms at the Warcheck building and the outside funding for the booster clubs. Those are outlined from the Title IX audit firm that did not conduct a non-biased audit. They conducted an audit in cahoots with Bryant Kelly to ensure that the board got results that they wanted. We're not saying this as an opinion. We're saying this as statement from our FOIA requests that Bryant Kelly was going to communicate with the auditor to ensure that the board got what they were looking for. On the second page, we have the first Title IX action plan. For example, Vernon Hills High School, locker rooms were supposed to be modified to add stalls. We met with 4 staff members, admin, last week. None of them can confirm that locker rooms had stalls installed at Vernon Hills High School. The second thing was there was a financial review of the booster clubs that was supposed to be done by the end of June. That was not done. Those numbers were not provided. If we go to the third document, we have the June 9th action plan. And this is my favorite part. Somehow, we are all of a sudden having no Title IX issues in D128. There's no locker room issues. There's no equity problems. Financial records were requested, and they were supposed to be disclosed by June 30th. They were never disclosed. We go to October 14th. Ray, I cannot understand for the life of me. You were such a nice guy, and my children liked you so much. But when we tried to figure out how D128 can proclaim that there are no Title IX violations, in a Google document, you said there's no Title IX violations when you guys set the agenda. All of these action plans, no steps were followed through. There were no financials looked at. There was paperwork suggested. I am so grateful that Bryant Kelly is gone, but this was all sham work. We need to do a proper assessment of the financials in D128 and at Libertyville High School, because it is alarming that you guys are determined to instill legacy systems and not have transparent eyes on what is going on with our sports financials. We are 3 years into this. Please take this home and have fun reading tonight. I'll also send you my 5-page follow-up of questions you guys can ask your admin as soon as I sit down. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Good evening, John Hetzel. As you know, I have one daughter now left in Vernon Hills High School, but at the rate that way things are going here, who knows if the changes will be made that are needed by the time she graduates. A couple quick things. I do think we do have a problem with transparency in this district as well as leadership. I think we're not getting the answers to the questions. We're finding that policies don't have procedures that marry up. Matter of fact, I think you all use Press Plus, which is a policy reference education subscription service to help keep you up to date on all the policy changes by ISBE. But do you have the other half of the service that lists the procedures on how to do it? Otherwise, you guys have just been winging it. The administrators have been winging it for years, and they don't parallel each other. The policies are set, but the procedures don't match up to what is supposed to be done. That's a real problem. And how you guys can get away with it with all this money you make, oh my God, like I said before, once before, I got 4 or 5 people over here worth $1.5 million. You're not doing your jobs. Come on. Let's get this place back to normal, the way it should be, run and operating efficiently, effectively, with decisive action, with leadership that leads people and makes decisions and takes care of the people that aren't doing their job. These legacy employees that we have are not staying current to trends and policies and how jobs are done. We've seen it over and over again in a number of instances. I've called it out before. I've called out to get information and data sent to me and provided after I've asked the question here at board meetings. Never get a thing. Again, it's because there's a lack of transparency and people are hiding the cheese around here because there's incompetence at certain levels. We need to get away from that and get people in here who are going to do the job properly. So please consider my comments, and let's try to get some leadership that'll take control of this situation, because we have so many instances where it's out of control. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Heather Palks-Dennis. I've actually never spoken at a board meeting before. I have lived in Libertyville for 8 years. My son recently graduated this past May, and I have a sophomore named Sam who currently attends. Tonight, I'm asking the board and the rest of the staff for 3 things. First, please bring accountability where it is needed. I'm concerned that there has been very little in the way of consequences or accountability for the teachers and the rest of the staff who have been accused of sexual misconduct towards students. For example, Parker Rohde retired early with full pension and benefits. That's not accountability. I'm encouraged to hear about Bryant Kelly tonight. That's great news. Keep that up. As you are well aware, D70 has taken strong action against Marshall Sheffer, and I strongly encourage D128 to follow their example, please. Secondly, please follow the law. Please follow the law on mandatory reporting. I am personally myself a licensed foster care provider. I am a mandatory reporter. It is not that hard, or as my 23-year-old daughter would say, it's not that deep. If there's an allegation, you must report. I am concerned that D128 is more concerned about its reputation than about protecting our kids from predators in the form of teachers or other staff. For example, there have been several other allegations of sexual misconduct against students, and several of these teachers are still in their positions. That's not acceptable to me. Number 3, please protect our finances. Illinois residents pay the highest property tax rates in the country. We are tied for number 1 only with New Jersey. Libertyville, while a wonderful city, which we all love, it's amazing. However, our property taxes are very high. Personally, myself, I live in a double tax, property tax area, so mine are even higher. Please don't use my taxpayer money to pay off your lawsuits. Instead, do the right thing in the first place by holding teachers and staff accountable and follow the current law so that you won't have lawsuits in the first place. In closing, please protect our children first and foremost, and then our hard-earned taxpayer dollars secondly. I'm a Christian, and I believe in the power of Christian prayer. I will be praying for all of you guys to please do the right thing in front of the students, their parents, and the God of heaven. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Lissa Gong, and I'm here as I'm many things here. I'm a teacher, I'm a community member, and I'm also a parent of a Vernon Hills High School graduate and current sophomore. Primarily, my discussion here today is dramatically different from everybody's. Students and board members, I appreciate your time and the patience that it takes to sit here and all the time you spend reading, thinking, contemplating. This is a huge undertaking. It is voluntary, and you get no thanks for this. I thought about running for the board in District 73 years ago, and I never could make the time for it. This is a huge undertaking, and none of us can do what we need to do without you being here. So I just want you to know that you're appreciated. I don't want to diminish the important work that people in all facets and all the stakeholders are discussing, because this is a very disappointing time in District 128, but I just want to put back on your radar that just last week on Thursday night, we had a very successful open house. For me, in my 25 years in the district, this was the highest attended open house I've ever done with parents. There were almost not enough chairs in my classroom to accommodate everybody. So it was a great night. And if you need a pick-me-up, if you need some, I don't know how you do this all the time. Like, this is really challenging, that what you're doing. And if you need a pick-me-up, if you need like a breath of fresh air, you are welcome in my classroom at any time. I don't need prior information. I don't need coordination from you. You are welcome to just pop in and come see what goes on, because I work with amazing students and there are great kids in the halls. My children were some of them. But I just want to thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Marnie Navarro, District 128 graduate, lawyer, and incoming parent. I speak for myself. I'm going to mirror some sentiments we've heard here this evening. You know, common theme here. District 128 does not follow the law. District 128 does not listen. District 128 is not transparent. District 128 is not accountable. I'm here to speak again about more Title IX violations. Title IX is a major problem here because this district refuses to follow federal law. This district has an explicit policy that forces use of preferred pronouns in violation of the First Amendment, permits cross-sex use of private bathrooms, locker rooms, and sports, permits cross-sex access to overnight accommodations. This is not hypothetical. This is happening now and has happened in the last 6 weeks, not just men using girls' hotel rooms on school-sponsored trips, but the same bed. Secret gender transitioning without advanced parental knowledge and consent, and express inclusion of gender identity without advance notice, and opt-out to parents in curriculum. This is not about ideology. This is about safety, policy, and the law. These are children. Parents, know your rights. This is happening. District 128 is not telling you that this is happening, but it is happening. You have a right to opt out. There are forms available from Awake, Illinois, and America First Legal. You have a right to homeschool your children in any subject, including gym. You do not have to force your daughters to change in front of biological men or let the men change in front of our girls. Your refusal to follow the law costs this district greatly. Our kids are violated and victimized, and we pay. We taxpayers pay, not you. It's not your money. The agenda reflects 2 more settlements yet tonight. Add those to the pile. We've already settled Title VII claims with Ellis Bowen, Yesenia Sanchez, Denise Herman's buyout, the Doe settlement, another one tonight. I don't even know what that one is. I'll FOIA that. You guys keep going because you simply refuse to follow the law with regard to Title VII, mandatory reporting, Title IX, ADA. We keep getting claims. We're hemorrhaging millions of dollars on attorneys' fees and settlements instead of in the classrooms with our students. And yet, there's no meaningful systemic change, mirroring the comments of other public commenters here tonight. There's no accountability, there's no transparency. Superintendent Schaefer found that 5 administrators failed to report the Parker Roadie situation last fall, and only now, 4 months later, after Bryant Kelly's been riding his bike around town at the tune of $300,000 paid administrative salary and benefits for the last 4 months, he's terminated for cause. Good start, but we need a cleaning of house. We need to start obeying the law and protecting our students. You can't claim ignorance, board, at this point. You guys have been seated for the last year and a half. The gender support guidelines are wholly illegal on their face. They were enacted in 2017. They do not contemplate the Cardona decision, the Mamu decision, the Mirabelli decision, and the 2 United States Supreme Court decisions that came down this summer that I've written up for you all for the last 2 years, including this summer, that made very, very clear that Title IX contemplates only biological sex and not gender identity. You don't have a legal leg left to stand on, and you keep drawing lawsuits and endangering and violating our children. Please follow the law, protect our children and our tax dollars. Thank you.
Anyone else wishes to speak? Seeing none, we'll go on to the next agenda item, which is the Student School Board Rep oath of office.
Can I have about 20 seconds for a technical difficulty for the broadcast?
Okay.
I think we're good. Somebody check the microphone, please. You're not. All right, going back.
Are we good to go?
Go ahead.
Okay. Let's all read it out together. So, do you have the copies of the oath of office?
If you guys want to stand, make it really official.
And all read it out together.
As representative to the Board of Education, I shall accept the responsibility to represent the student body so that the Board of Education can make decisions that support equitable and quality education of every student at D128, foster meaningful communication between students, administrators, and Board of Education, and ensure a variety of student voices and perspectives are shared at the board table. Attend monthly Board of Education meetings and present relevant and timely reports in coordination with my fellow student board representatives. Review the board meeting agenda prior to the meeting to ask clarifying questions in advance and bring relevant amendments to the table related to the schedule and discussions. Report ideas that reflect the students of my school and not personal agendas. Be available to hear the ideas or questions from my students at my school and relay them to the board when needed. Work closely with our principals to ensure student voices assist the superintendent and members of the Board of Education in leading the district towards achieving the district's daring mission and strategic plan.
I'm excited to see you here. And with that, as your first part, we move into the student school board rep reports.
Nope, you can do it right from your mic. Speak into the microphone.
Since this is the first time, do you mind stating your names and your school?
Hello, my name is Taylor Gallivan, and I am a junior at Vernon Hills High School. I am very excited to be working closely with the members of our district school board, and I can't wait to see what this year brings. I'm the co-president of Vernon Hills High School's newly implemented Model UN team. I participate in girls tennis, and I am involved with a student-led nonprofit organization called the KIT Outreach that works towards combating hygiene poverty in both local and global scales. Over this summer, I had the opportunity to shadow the Vernon Hills Village board members and learn lots of information about what it takes to build and maintain a strong sense of community through meaningful policies that we have in our community. This developed a strong interest of mine in community outreach and unity. Therefore, this year I would like to work towards bridging the gap between families and students in District 128 by bringing student perspectives to the board and reporting on interviews of families from our district. I am also very interested in foreign language and service, and I would be very willing to bring my passion to the table this year by making underrepresented families feel both heard and seen. Thank you for listening, and I hope to leave a positive impact this year as a Vernon Hills student representative.
Hello, my name is Misha Rahman, and I'm a senior at Vernon Hills High School. I'm excited to serve as a student board representative, and I'm honored to be a voice for the student body. At school, I'm involved in our newspaper, The Scratching Post, and I'm serving as editor-in-chief this year. I'm also an executive board member for Spark, a club that focuses on mental health initiatives within the school. For example, organizing events during Yellow Ribbon Week and Red Ribbon Week. Outside of school, I work in an after-school program for kids from kindergarten through second grade. Through these experiences, I've recognized my interest in mental health and advocacy. This year, I hope to bring different perspectives to the board, whether from an academic standpoint or through extracurricular experiences that shape students' lives. One change that I want to note is the implementation of regular late starts, where school starts at 10 o'clock instead of 8:45. Although we've only experienced one so far, I'm interested in hearing more about the effects it has on students and how it interacts with different parts of their lives. For example, for some it may allow extra time to sleep and potentially benefit their mental health and focus. With that, I'd also like to hear from students directly who are involved in athletics, especially those who have early morning practices. It's important to consider the experiences of all students as we continue with these changes. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for giving me this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to serving alongside of all of you. Thank you.
Hello. Sorry. Okay. Hello, my name is Gillian Disha. I'm a senior at Vernon Hills High School, and I'm more than excited to be getting to work with the district board this year and to represent my school and my peers. In school, I'm a 3-year student council executive board member, this year serving as senior representative. I'm also a 2-year VIP or Voices in Prevention executive board member, where we get to visit our feeder schools and answer questions and perform skits to help prepare them for middle school and high school, helping them live fun, healthy, and substance-free futures. On top of that, I am a 4-year varsity cheerleader, and outside of school, I do all-star competitive cheer. This summer, I attended the C. Bryn Goodman Teen Institute, or CGTI. It's a leadership conference where we collaborated with students all across Illinois, sharing our school's ideas and resources while learning from others too. During one of these discussions, the topic of help and resources for students applying to college came up. Immediately, I thought about our college resource center, and I brought it up, and that's when I realized it's more uncommon than common to have a college resource center at your school. That made me want to bring to the board this year how different resources are affecting students in their everyday life. So that ranges from the CRC to the fee waiver program, all the way to sports fundraising to helping them pay for their season. Once again, thank you so much for the opportunity to work with the district board this year and to share my and my peers' thoughts and ideas within the school, and I'm so excited for a great year.
Good evening. I'm Reese Werba. I'm a senior at Libertyville High School, and I'm super excited for the upcoming year with you all. Within Libertyville High School, I'm involved in a variety of activities. I'm president of DECA, which is our school's competitive business club, a member of our student council executive board, and I'm a second-year Link Crew leader. Lastly, I'm a part of the high school's gymnastics team. Through these activities, along with academics, I really enjoy getting involved in our school community and connecting with a large variety of students. Outside of school, I enjoy pretty much any outdoor activity. To name a few, I love hiking, skiing, and playing pickleball with friends and family. I also spend time reading, and I would never turn down going out for ice cream. So far, this school year has gotten off to a great start. One of the most notable things from these first 2 weeks to me has been the Link Crew program. Seeing the blue shirts scattered throughout the hallways on the first day was such a simple but meaningful way to make our freshmen feel welcomed and at home. This year, as a school board representative, one of my biggest focuses is student activities and extracurriculars. I'm really looking forward to representing the student body and making the most of my senior year. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. My name is Mary Minogue, and I'm a senior at Libertyville High School, and I'm super excited to spend the year as a board representative for Libertyville. Throughout my time at Libertyville, I have participated in a couple different sports, including cross country, gymnastics, lacrosse, flag football, and wrestling. I was the team captain for lacrosse, flag football, and our girls wrestling team. Outside sports, I attend Tech Campus, and I've also acted as a student ambassador for both of my classes. Last year, I completed the Welding 1 course and earned my certification, and this year I'm excited to continue the EMS program and hopefully finish this year with another certification. Out of school, I coach youth wrestling, and I'm involved with martial arts. And in my free time, I really enjoy spending time with my family and friends, as well as being outside, doing anything from snowboarding to going on a nice walk. Overall, I'm just super excited about this school year and being able to come give some perspective and maybe even suggestions on how to improve the school. This year, my main topic focuses will be athletics and Tech Campus. Being involved in so many activities has given me a pretty wide variety of people I talk to, and hopefully I can bring some good insight into what life is like at Libertyville. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to the rest of our year.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mia Abraham, and I'm currently a junior at LHS. I'm so excited and honored to be one of your school board representatives for the 2026 to 2027 school year. I'm looking forward to getting to know everyone, hearing your ideas, and helping make this a great year for our community. During the school year, I try to stay involved. I participate in stage plays, and I'm an official thespian. I also play badminton, participate in a few clubs, and this year I'm excited to be a Link Crew leader. School has been great so far. Between academics, extracurriculars, and activities outside of school, I have been kept quite busy. Outside of school, I enjoy playing piano, spending time with friends, and, of course, watching movies. Over the summer, I had the opportunity to participate in a theater internship in New York, which was an absolute blast. I also got to stay involved with some of my favorite hobbies, including playing pickleball and watching sunsets at the beach. Being a school board representative is very important to me because I want to be someone students can come to with their ideas, concerns, and suggestions, and I hope to make a positive difference in our school. This year, I'll be focusing especially on theater, clubs, and academics while working to make sure students feel supported, involved, and represented. I'm so grateful for this opportunity, and I can't wait to see what we accomplish together this year. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Welcome on board. And I'm looking forward to the future reports and being blown away by all the insights that you bring to us. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have a list of the FOIA requests that have been received and executed since the June report. And right after that, we are going to jump into the superintendent's report.
So good evening, Board of Education and Community. I'm pleased to present my first superintendent report for the 26-27 school year. So first, to extend on President Caldwell, welcome to our student school board members. Have had an opportunity to meet with you and chat with you. This is an extraordinary group of very dynamic and powerful student leaders. I know you will do a great job representing the voice and needs of your fellow students. So welcome aboard. We're looking forward to working with you. And as we open the school year, we are so excited and energized by the amazing students that we have here in our school district. Our kids come to us with dreams, aspirations, and talents. The buildings are filled with excitement and hope, and it's exciting to be back launching the school year. Schools are places meant for children, for students, and I'm always excited when we open the school year. I'm also grateful for the talent and passion that the adults have in our building, from our extraordinary teachers to our incredible ESP and our administrators. Those that work with our students each and every day are exceptional. They care deeply, they work very hard, they come early, they stay late, and we're very proud of them. So we appreciate the work that all of our staff does here in the district. We know that they are here first and foremost for students. They are doing everything they can to support them, and I applaud them. I appreciate the work that they do. A couple of items that I'd like to highlight in my good news report for this month. District 128 is once again proud to be ranked among the best high schools in the state and nation in the recently released U.S. News and World Report Best High School rankings for the 26-27 school year. Vernon Hills ranked 14th in the state and Libertyville 20th among Illinois high schools. And this is a survey of nearly 27,000 high schools from the country. And even within those rankings, both of our schools ranked really, really high nationally, and we're proud of them. Libertyville High School Athletic Director John Woods, who I see here in the audience directly across from me, was recently recognized with 2 prestigious honors this summer. He was selected by the Illinois Coaches Association as its nominee for the National Athletic Director of the Year Award. As one of 8 national finalists, he was recognized during the National High School Athletic Coaches Association, NHSACA, conferences and awards banquet, which was held on July 1, where finalists from across the country were honored for their exceptional leadership and service. He was later announced as the NHSACA Athletic Director of the Year. On July 25th, Woods was inducted into the Illinois Sports Hall of Fame during a ceremony in Springfield. John Woods, we are very proud of you. Congratulations. Last spring, Vernon Hills High School art students in Allison Malloy's drawing and painting studio class put their passion and artistic skills into rendering portraits for children in India who have been displaced from their families in some way and live with foster mothers while attending a common school. Through their partnership with the nonprofit The Memory Project, Vernon Hills High School art students created hand-painting portraits as outreach to offer these children kindness, respect, personal encouragement, and joy. And finally, in Transition Pathways experienced mechanical issues at the start of the school year, several neighboring businesses stepped up to support our young adults and staff. And so we want to call out Duxler Tire Libertyville, who generously provided access to air-conditioned space and restroom facilities, while Bagels by the Book and Panera Bread welcomed our young adults as extensions of our classrooms as they practice important community-based skills, including ordering, cash handling, and making purchases. Their employees demonstrated tremendous patience and kindness, helping create authentic learning experiences outside the classroom. One especially thoughtful moment came when a Bagels by the Book employee noticed our young adults and staff outside as the restaurant was closing. She went out of her way to ask if anyone needed to use the restroom before the doors were locked, a small gesture that spoke volumes about the kindness and care of our community partners. We want to thank those that are amazing community partners that stepped up and stepped in to help Transition Pathways during a tougher start to the school year. I'm pleased to report that those issues have been resolved. But again, thank you to our community partners.
Thank you. Next up, we move into the discussion section. The first item on the agenda is the digital scoreboards. Dan?
Aye. Just a moment. Working on it. All right. Thank you very much. This has been something that we've been working on for well over the past year on this. We've had a team exploring this, and we're ready to present to you what we think is the right fit for our district at this time. I just want to acknowledge tonight we've got John Woods, as you saw, Athletic Director at Libertyville, and then Justin Cooper, Athletic Director at Vernon Hills High School. They have spent a ton of time alongside evaluating, exploring, and thinking through this project. We also have with us tonight Mike, Joe, and Donald from Digital Scoreboards, which is a company I'll talk about soon. So very thankful for them to be here tonight for their support. For our scoreboards, we've been looking at a few things. The first is we've been trying to figure out what to do with our scoreboards, because we have some scoreboards that are aging. They're at the time to get replaced, and so the thought is what to replace them with. So that's one of our core objectives, is to figure out our plan for replacing our scoreboards. The second is, been probably the most important, is the video enhancement. Scoreboards now are very common to see video scoreboards, and so they're like LED panels that have a lot of features that are really great. So we've been looking at how can we incorporate that, and then also knowing that digital scoreboards are a bit more expensive than static boards. How can we pay for it? Because as we've talked, there's only so much money we have and for capital projects, and so how are we going to prioritize this? And so we're looking, is there a way to generate revenue from these that will help pay for this and other things in the future? So that's the things that we've been looking at. What we are recommending is to look at doing this in 2 phases. Right now, we have 12 spaces throughout our district that could have a digital scoreboard, 6 at each building. So that's going to be our stadiums, our pools, our main gym, west gym, baseball fields, softball fields. After evaluating everything, what we're recommending is to do this in 2 phases. The first phase is to hit the ones with the highest visibility. And so that's going to be our main stadium, our stadium, our main gym, and the pool area. And those are ones that are going to have high visibility, high usage, and really high ability to generate revenue. Our second phase of the project that we'd like to do is then doing the west gyms, the softball fields, and the baseball fields. So how do we do this? We've looked at a lot of different options and a lot of different models. They range, there's a large range of what could be out there in terms of acquisition of boards, the types of boards you can use, the revenue model, sometimes no revenue model. We believe at this point that Digital Scoreboards, who are the representatives are here today, we believe they're the right firm to partner with us on this. So to give you a sense, they provide the boards, They provide the maintenance, they provide the advertising, they're the ones that go out and do the work, they provide the copy. It's really a turnkey management system. They handle all of it, including the creative, the financial reporting, and the transparency, all of that. And really what it is they focus their expertise on the advertising and everything, and then lets us to focus our expertise on running our athletic programs. Another really important part of this is that the district has control over ads. So we are able to control all the ads, all the sponsors, so there's nothing that we wouldn't want to be out there. With digital scoreboards, there are two options that we're looking at. And this is a little bit of what we're hoping to get some feedback on broadly, but also even in these options. The first option is called a 50-50 revenue share model, and the other one I'm going to call 35-65. They're both good. Neither model is a bad model. They're different. So let me start with the 50-50 model because that is the most straightforward. Under the 50-50 model, the district would purchase all 6 boards in phase 1. So remember, we're talking stadiums, pools, main gyms. The district would purchase all those 6 boards up front. We'll get into numbers later, but think of the concept. So we purchase all 6 boards up front. That's our upfront cost. Then we will have an annual cost for software called ScoreVision, which is the software that runs the system. You'll have an annual cost of that. And then on the revenue side, it's a 50-50 split. So whatever comes in, the district gets half, they get half. So if $300,000 is generated in revenues, gross revenue for ads, District 128 gets 150, Digital Scoreboards gets 150. 50-50 model, pretty straightforward. The 35-65 is a little more complicated. So in this model, the district would finance the main gym ones. So the main gym boards, they would finance them, like you finance a car, right? We would finance those 2 boards. The other 4, we would purchase outright. Part of this option includes a guaranteed payment to the district of revenue of $53,800 under this model. So the 50-50, if you recall not hearing it, there is no guaranteed payment under that, but there is under the 35-65. So you have that. Then in terms of annual costs, you have the software, ScoreVision, but you're only paying for ScoreVision on the 4 that you bought because the 2 that you're financed, it's included in the payment. And then we will have the payment for the boards. And that also is $53,800. So essentially what Digital Scoreboards is guaranteeing that they're guaranteeing you're gonna make enough to make your payment on the 2 boards. And that is a key difference between them. Then for the revenue split, this is where it gets a little tricky, but I'll just go quickly and then I'll show you the numbers. The 4 areas, the stadiums and the pools, they would be a straight 50-50 split, just like the other one. But the main gyms, after a 25% management fee and after recouping the guaranteed payment, then that revenue is split 35-65. So that's just the difference between them. But I'll show you what the numbers is. So on the 50-50 side, there's more upside because it's a higher split. We got a higher percentage of the share. But there's also a bigger downside because there's no guaranteed amount that you could get. For the 35-65, there's a smaller downside because you have the guaranteed payment, but you also have a smaller upside because it's a lower split. So, but it's not quite as simple as that, so we're going to look at some numbers. Sorry, I know this might be a little bit hard to see, but I'll explain. So under the 50-50 model, between the 2, the upfront costs. Under the 50-50, the upfront cost would be $900,000-ish for the purchase of all 6 boards. Under the 35-65, the upfront cost is $600,000. So it's cheaper because that's where we're only buying 4 boards in that circumstance versus we're buying 6. Infrastructure for either model is $300,000 either way, the infrastructure. So that's about $150,000 per school. So that's going to be running the electric and data for all those new boards and everything. So that's the same. So the total upfront cost on the 50-50 is $1.2 million. Total upfront cost on the 35-65 is $900,000. So more upfront costs on the 50-50. If you annualize the 7 years of annual costs over that, the 50-50 has about $270,000, which is the ScoreVision subscriptions. The 35-65 has $557 in total 7 years worth of annual spending. And that is because it includes the ScoreVision plus the payment for the 2 boards. So you're paying less upfront, but you pay more as each year goes on. So over 7 years, the 50/50 model would have a cost of about $1.445 million. And the 35/65 model would have a cost of $1.462 million. So over the long term, the 35/65 costs a little bit more, but it's really close. But that kind of makes sense because you're financing two of the boards, and it's usually always cheaper to pay cash up front for something than it is to finance. So that makes sense conceptually. On the revenue side, this is the other important part of the equation, because you have to put them both together. The projections that I'm about to show you are intended to be conservative. Digital Scoreboards is very optimistic that they would be very optimistic of exceeding these assumptions, but we want to start conservative and very, very realistic so that we can see how this might work. So based on their analysis, they believe that there is about 1,450 realistic, defendable businesses in our area that are in the market for ads. 2 to 3% of that market would be about 27 to 36 businesses that are actually signed up with us. And that sponsorship would look like, it could be as low as $5,000 per year up to $20,000 per year. So if you have 27 to 36 businesses and there's different tiers in that mix, that could generate a gross revenue, not district revenue, gross revenue of $300,000 to $400,000 a year. And the idea is, as it's starting out, we've never done this before, it'll start slower, more on the 300 side, and then it'll grow as the years progress and it gets more established. Over the 7 years, based on an average of $375,000 gross a year, that would generate about $2.6 million over a period of 7 years. Now again, that's not district revenue, that's the total revenue generated by ads. Now we put it all together. So I have the cost there, $1.4 million, almost $1.5 million on the 35/65 model. The projected revenue, based on the assumption of $375,000 average a year, would generate for the district $1.313 million over the 7 years. The 35/65 would generate $1.349 million under that model. So the 35/65 costs a little bit more, but it also will generate a little bit more. The 50/50 is a little bit cheaper, but it also would generate a little bit cheaper based on that assumption of 375 average. So after 7 years, the net cost to the district under the 50/50 model would be $132,000. Under the 35/65, it'd be $113,000. So what that means is, all else being equal, with an average of $375,000, the 35/65 model would be more advantageous for the district, but it's really close, is what I would say. The break-even point in terms of when they're even is an average gross revenue of about $412,000. So at $412,000, that is the tipping point. If the average gross ad revenue is over $412,000 a year, then the 50/50 model would be more advantageous. If the gross ad revenue is under $412,000, the 35/65 is more advantageous. So there's risk reward on both sides. Both have strengths. Neither is a bad model. They're just different, and it kind of depends on what the risk tolerance is. To give you an example in terms of how much better, like if revenues were only $200,000, then the 35/65 is better by like $100,000. If it's only $100,000 generated per year, it's better by like $170,000. So it really depends on how much revenue actually ends up coming in it. So that's what the money picture looks like. In terms of the revenue coming in and what would we use it for, there's 3 buckets. The first bucket would be to pay for phase 1. So the first bucket would be to pay for the 6 boards that we are intending to install in phase 1. The second bucket, so once that is done, the second bucket would be to fund phase 2, pay for the boards that we would like to do at the West Gym, the baseball field, and the softball fields. And then after that, we would want to put the funds towards our athletics and activities at our buildings. So that's our idea. The phase 1 and phase 2 will probably take several years to get there, but that's at least our plan with that. In terms of our board policy, we do have a policy on advertising. It's policy 8:25. And what that says is that the ads have to adhere to our rules and that there's no disruption to educational processes, no violation of rights or no violation of privacy, no infringement on copyright, nothing defamatory, obscene, vulgar, or indecent content. Our policy allows ads in the spaces that we're talking about, but it requires board approval, and we have the ability to veto any ad. Any ad that has to go has to complete our review and approval process. So that's what our policy currently has and is there. So in terms of what the next step is, this is the first time we're talking about this with you. We've been thinking about this for a long time and trying to find the right fit, and then trying to figure out how to explain it. So tonight we're bringing this forward to you as an idea. If this sounds like an idea that you think is worth continuing to pursue, the next step we would need ultimately is the board to approve something like this to move forward, and then we would move forward with contracting and getting infrastructure going and getting all those things going. So that, in a nutshell, is all the information that I have on digital scoreboards. And at this point, if you got questions or any thoughts, we'd love to hear. So the idea is overall feedback on this concept. If there's an idea based on the model, which you feel like they're both, neither are bad, but we're very interested in hearing your feedback.
How long has this company been in business?
14.
14 years?
14
And
years.
then secondly, I'd like to get a cost if we didn't go digital scoreboards, what that cost would be to replace this?
They would be significantly less. So you're talking instead of like anywhere between 100 and 180, depending on how big the board is. I mean, you're talking 30 to 50 maybe. So it's a very, very different price for that. But it'll depend on the space and all those kinds of things. But that's a rough range in terms of other scoreboards we've replaced within the last few years.
George, you may want to jump in as well, but thanks for bringing this forward. I've talked to a few kids that say, we need new digital scoreboards like other schools. I know a lot of the high schools around here have them, so I appreciate you bringing them forward. I think we did have the conversation at committee that any profits that we make, because school districts are not in business to make money, but the profits would go then to phase 2. And then finally, the third phase would be to other sports and activities.
Mm-hmm.
So we were very pleased at the progress with all that. George, did you want to add anything? Doug, I'm sorry, I do that all the time.
That's all right, Jean. No, I had the opportunity, like Jean, to listen to it. I support the concept. The profile of today's high school student athlete continues to evolve, and I think this is a mechanism that will allow us to continue to support that evolution. The high school student athlete of a decade ago, it's entirely different in today's arena. The recruiting process, the exposure, the highlights themselves, I think it's very important. At the same time, I also believe that we need to be equally committed to all extracurricular activities outside of the sports arena, into the theater, into the arts, into the music world, that we're willing to do the same type of investment. But I fully support this concept and am intrigued by the possibilities it brings to both high schools.
I have a couple of questions. Again, great ideas to start about with. So the digital boards, you're in service for 14 plus years. And again, knowing the limitations associated with technology in terms of its lifetime, and you're talking about a screen, I'm guessing, that's what a digital board would look like. So 7 years is pretty much the lifetime of a electronic device, right? Maximum at the upper end, that too if it's in facing the weather elements and so. So I just wanted to have some thoughts on an understanding of what happens after 7 years as a process. And my second thought is those projections of revenue, those are absolutely great. We have a lot of good businesses in the district and they would be more than willing to support us. But my question is, I'm assuming that this concept has been applied in other school districts or even smaller colleges in the area, and how it has worked out, if there's some kind of a white paper that demonstrates the feasibility of the project or the success of the project, it would be very useful to have that information as well.
We can absolutely get that information.
Good question.
One question I had was, how do these integrate with like existing mechanisms that we have from scoring, et cetera, and how do they feed into some of these digital scoreboards?
Can you, I missed the first part of what
So,
you said.
example, when you go for swimming, there's timing mechanisms that have to integrate and go on to the scoreboards. How do these integrate with existing mechanisms, and have you done this in all sports before?
Yeah, the systems will integrate. The one that we will have to look at and evaluate is the shot clocks. That one is, the ones we have right now might not integrate, and that's something we'd have to look at, but I would say that's relatively on the low end of cost if we were needed to redo our shot clocks at our two main gyms. But there's a high integration with the boards that they have now. Yeah.
Maybe let's factor that into account when we look at the financials, because there is cost to it, right?
Mhm.
If we have to replace other things, because what we don't want to end up with is like a shiny front end and then there's nothing at the back. That has to be changed.
Correct. I spoke to like the basic concept. In each of them, there's a menu of other things you could do. This was intended to kind of show you the basic of the models and like the differences between them. But there's going to be other things like shot clocks, additional warranties if we want to. There's other things to consider as well.
Yeah. But those specifics matter, right?
Yeah. Depending on which way we want to go.
And Dan, one more question. I mean, one of the things that you noted there was these annual costs, maintenance costs, and it appears that we are looking at around 40 to 50K in annual maintenance cost. And does that involve physical equipment taking care of it to ensure its longevity, or is it just software?
Those annual costs is, on the 50/50 model, is the software for the ScoreVision, which runs, it's like a cloud-based that runs the whole thing. On the 35/65 model, it's the software, but also the payment for the two boards that we'd be financing under that model.
That's a hefty 10% annually.
Correct, and that's something that we're like, these are all pretty round numbers. We've been talking about this. They've even given some information as recent as last week that would change some of these assumptions slightly, but not in a material way in terms of like the overall impact of what we're looking at.
One, will you please share the presentation to the board? Because I'd like to be able to like look at the numbers and factor in all the costs. Second, so this doesn't impact Vernon Hills, but I know in the main gym at LHS, there's an LED scores table, and there are some sponsorships, advertisements that are run on that. So how is that going to impact the scoreboard advertising? You're going to run them at the same time?
I couldn't speak to the table, but the concept of we have even beyond maybe the particular table, we have other partnerships in our district with vendors that have contributed in a variety of ways to even our foundation. And really, the thing with digital scoreboards is to be a partner, to work with us and to find the right balance. Like they don't want to take from Peter to give to Paul, right? Like that's not what they're looking to do. They're trying to bring in add value to everything. So in terms of the question about the table, I'd have to find out more information.
Okay. And then one more thing. Do you have information that talks about the different timing systems that you've integrated with your scoreboards? Because I know, our timing system at Vernon Hills High School is questionable, and so I don't want to put in something and then it not work.
You're asking to confirm the integrations with the different systems we
Yeah,
have? Yeah, absolutely. We can get clear information on that.
So just so staff is aware of next steps in terms of board direction, would the board want us to continue pursuing exploration? Would you like us to follow up with an addition, with more information for vis-a-vis like a board report, just so we have some direction?
I think, long story short, yes. Right now, we just have a concept in front of us. We don't have information in front of us.
Yeah, and-
That's what we need.
Yeah, and I know it was introduced at the committee meeting, but this is the first time that
Right.
the rest of the board is hearing it. You know, in concept, I think it's great because, I'm not going to lie, I go to these high schools and I see these great scoreboards. And we don't have that, so I'd really like to modernize that for our students, if it's possible.
In terms of either model, does either one do you feel more or less comfortable with, like in terms of the risk versus the downside versus upside?
As far as the 50/50 versus,
Mhm.
I need to see the numbers.
Okay.
in front
Yeah,
of
that's
me.
great. Sure.
And it might be in the information you provide us, but as far as if we did go with the 65-35, what's the rate, the financing rate?
I don't know what the financing rate, the annual payment would be $53,800. So I know like the cost of the board is, I want to say.
It's okay, I'm sure.
I'll get you the info because I
Okay.
have the cost of the board buying versus the annual payment over the years. So I have all that numbers
All
we
right.
can get you.
Thank you.
I think looking at the dollar figures for two with information on how they integrate, that's what I heard, at least with that anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm more comfortable right now with something that's guaranteed, but that's just a personal preference that I have. And I need to see the numbers as well.
Yeah, I agree with Jean. I'm more supportive of the guaranteed approach to this. Again, I've shared this before. I really like the idea, given the change in the profile of the student athlete. But in fairness to the board, this is quite a bit of information that Jean and I were able to spend intimate time with you on during our committee meeting. And I think in fairness to all of the board members, we need to get this information in their hands to allow them to digest it rather than to make a snap decision, given the dollars.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to make a decision. It was more,
Right now,
this is a
discussion.
brand new concept. What feedback do you have? And, at this point, I would bring back a lot more information and more in a written form so that you can see and digest all of that. So,
I think
And-
from concept perspective, everyone seems excited right now for this.
And one other piece, I know we touched on it, but it really brings the community into the school, particularly our business partners, to invest in our student athletes. I really like that idea. And again, I want to close with this. Inasmuch as we talk about the excitement of the student athlete, we need to have this same commitment to all of our students, no matter what extracurricular activity they participate in.
thank you very much.
Next up, it's again you, Dan,
Right.
on the VHHS pool update.
Let that one get queued up. Yeah, we'll add this presentation and this one as well. We had a lot of changes, even as much as this morning and yesterday, or Friday. So we'll get this added to the meeting. One second as we transition this over. But I can kind of get us going. So at the May board meeting, we discussed having an update at the August board meeting, which is this meeting. So here we are. Justin Cooper is still here, still athletic director at Vernon Hills High School. Has spent a lot of time thinking through this. And so with that, I'm gonna get us going. Okay. So if I zoom out, how did we get here? Why are we here? There have been questions about why are we in the situation that we're in, even questions about how could we let equipment get to this point of needing to get replaced. And the first I would start is that this is not a surprise to us. We have known the condition of this system for several years. The reality we face is that there's only so much funding that we have, and so we have to prioritize projects. And so we chose to prioritize other projects, particularly the chiller at Vernon Hills, which serves the entire building, the AC for the entire building. We also prioritized the roof at Vernon Hills, which also serves a huge portion of our building as well. So we have known about it, and we've had to prioritize our projects. The project that we're talking about, we had targeted for doing this past summer 2026, and so we have done a variety of HVAC projects over the last recent years. Similarly, this summer we just did the Libertyville main gym HVAC system as well. So in fall 2025, we designed the project, and at that time we were told it's a 20-week lead time to get the equipment, which is been kind of what we're used to in terms of lead times, 12, 20 weeks. That's kind of what we've seen. So at the December board meeting, the board approved us ordering the equipment. January 6th, the equipment was ordered with the contractor, and at that point we were given a May delivery date, which would have been perfect time to run it during the summer. In March, we were contacted and told that the delivery has been pushed to September. And what they told us was, this is an HVAC system that is not like we can't just go to a store and buy this. This is a custom design and custom built for that space in particular HVAC system with a lot of different parts. One of the parts is the fan motor that is needed for this, and that supply chain for that fan motor got hit really hard. There was a surge in demand for the fan motors due to data center demand that kind of happened all across the country that you might have heard about. That happened with this particular manufacturer, and so that delayed it. And so at that point, we looked at phasing the project, and that's what we talked about back in, I think April, May, forgive me, I can't remember the exact month, splitting into two phases. Phase one would be this past summer, and that was doing a lot of prep work, painting the pool, and doing a lot of other stuff. Phase two would be the actual installation of the new HVAC unit that would start on October 19th. And so that brings us to where we are today. So what is the, hold please, sorry. All right, yep, so where are we at right now? Phase one has been completed. Phase one was done on time, and so that is done. Phase two, the timeline is set to begin on October 19th and complete on December 7th. We are still waiting on a final delivery date confirmation for our equipment, and which I'll talk about more even later. And the facility impact, while we are doing phase two, the pool will have to be shut down, so there will not be able to be access to the pool for curricular or extracurricular uses. So what has been the plan for how to accommodate that, particularly for our student athletes? I would say the community is coming together to help support this, both the District 128 community in terms of the use of Libertyville High School and the Vernon Hills Park District partnering to help us with the use of their pool, particularly at Lakeview Fitness. So we have a partnership with Vernon Hills Park District for the use of their pool for morning practices that will run from 6 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. For after-school practices, those will be at Libertyville from 6 to 8. And we will have shuttles that connect Vernon Hills, Lakeview Fitness, Libertyville, and to try to minimize the logistical impact. So more information for the morning practice. Those will be at 6 a.m. at the Lakeview Fitness pool. Athletes would provide self-transportation to Lakeview Fitness. For the pool at Lakeview Fitness, the Vernon Hills Park District folks have told us they keep that at 83 degrees. And that they are looking at how to lower that a few degrees for our usage, like logistically and mechanically. How can they lower it for us and then put it back up for their other programming? And so they're working with us, and we're excited to see that. So that's what they're looking at there. Then there will be 2 shuttles that run to Vernon Hills, one at 7:10 to hit early bird, or 0 hour, excuse me, and then another one at 7:45 for the regular start of school. For weight room days, lifting days where they're not actually in the pool in the morning, students will meet at Vernon Hills from 7 to 8 at the weight room. In the evening, practices will be at the Libertyville High School pool from 6 to 8 p.m. There will be a shuttle that leaves Vernon Hills at 5:30 p.m. Students can also drive themselves to Libertyville if they would like. And then the dismissal after practice, families would come to Libertyville, or the students that drove there would take themselves home at the end of the day. So depending on the type of session that is there, will depend on what's happening. So for morning swims, again, those are going to be at Lakeview Fitness Pool, 6 to 7:30. Students self-transport in, shuttles back to Vernon Hills. For morning weights, they will meet at Vernon Hills directly and do that there from 7 to 8. For evening swims, Libertyville, 6 to 8. There's a shuttle that leaves Vernon Hills, 5:30. For Thanksgiving week, this is somewhat new that we've gotten this, is Thanksgiving week practices will be at Libertyville High School from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. First 2 hours will be in the pool. Last hour will be in the weight room at Libertyville for weight training. The athletic directors have done a great job coordinating and trying to finalize the schedule for things like that, especially the Thanksgiving week. As I talked about Thanksgiving, they'll have a 2-hour pool session followed by 1-hour weight training. And the competitions that are scheduled for Deerfield, Highland Park, Glenbrook North, Westmount, Stevenson, those are proceeding as scheduled. Those meets are unaffected by any of this. In terms of family engagements, there's been a letter prepared for families with all the details that I went through, and Justin is also, the athletic director, is setting up a meeting to address questions directly and talk with people and answer their questions. For contingency planning, so what happens is December 7th is our target completion date for Phase 2. If it is not done by Phase 2, we will extend the current plan we have, meaning Libertyville, we will continue in the evening at Libertyville from 6 to 8. And in the morning, what we will do is we will work with the Vernon Hills Park District to request either additional days if we need it, or to see about shifting our schedule. And that's our intention for if it gets delayed a bit for there. So that is the most current information we had up until 2 days ago. Thursday afternoon, Friday morning, we got updated information. The factory does not yet have the fan motors. So they were expecting them mid-August. They were expecting them by now in mid-August. They are now getting a delivery date of mid-September. That delivery date of mid-September still works within our timeline, because it only takes a few weeks for them to turn it over to us once they get the fan motors. And so that still works within our timeline, and there's even still some buffer in there for that to happen. However, this is still extremely new and very fresh, like Thursday afternoon, Friday morning, trying to clarify what this means and what the timelines are. And so what we're doing now is evaluating all of that and the potential impacts, and so we're going to have to give you another update in September when we get more information about this. And so, you know, that is very fresh information, but also want to be very transparent with the information that we have. Again, right now, it fits within the timeline that we've established, but we want to keep thinking about it, and we'll need to give you another update in September.
Dan, I have a couple questions real quick for you. As the mother of 2 former swimmers, I hear the concerns for the parents, especially for the kids that are seniors and they're swimming for possible scholarships, working with colleges. I understand all these things happen, and I think the parents do too. I would certainly say working on the temperature at the Lakeview facility is critical. Top-notch swimmers, if the water is too warm, they could actually do damage to their bodies in season. So that is a bigger deal than what most average people with swimming know about. I think the other thing is just constant communication. Everyone here we're all concerned about every single child football, theater, whatever you're in, tech. But we certainly don't want to deprive kids that have been swimming all their lives, and this is their opportunity. And the parents are naturally concerned at this point about what's going to happen with their kids. So the more information we get out, and I know everything's based on when we get things, and I'm sure that we can't find it any earlier, but just the more communication we can give to parents and really working with the park district on lowering that temp is going to make a big difference. Thank you for your work on that.
Yeah, I don't know if we have anybody who's like kind of a pool expert. I mean, is it even really feasible to bring it down to temp consistently to what we need? Because they're not stopping their operations during this time. So, I mean, is that fluctuation really possible?
That's what, the information we got
Yeah.
is that's what they're looking into logistically on how to do it, and so we're waiting.
Yeah, I
waiting for
think-
So
information back.
logistically, if it doesn't work out, what are we doing?
I don't know, we'll have to cross that bridge when we get it. What we're told is the temperature that they have is at 83 degrees, is where they keep it at. So that's the most current information we have.
I think because it's earlier in the morning, where it'll be easier to get it down, I think their concern is going to be to get it back up for the little kids swimming. That's my understanding. I'm not a pool expert, but I'm a swim mom expert, so let us know, and certainly let the swim moms and dads know, because their season's up. The girls should be done with their season, right? By the time all this starts?
It'll be towards the end of their season, yeah.
Okay, so it really impacts both, so.
Dan,
Thanks.
where are the fan motors being manufactured? Do you know?
I have access to the name of the company. I don't know where that particular facility is, but it's in the United States for sure. So I can get that information for you. I don't want to kind of misspeak, but we do know the actual facility that it's coming out of.
Yeah, I want to echo two things that Jean shared with you is let's be proactive in our communications with the parents. I think that is very important rather than them seeking information from us. And then secondly, for some swimmers, this is their time. And we have to do everything possible to make it their time. Whatever that is, failure is not an option. We have to make it their time. And even if we have to travel to get those fan motors to make this happen for those kids, we need to do it.
Do we know how many students are currently enrolled in 0-hour PE? For swimmers?
We do.
For swimmers?
I don't.
Because there was mention that you're going to have a second shuttle just for those students. Has there been the consideration to allow those student athletes to be exempt from 0-hour in order to make the logistics easier?
That is a great question that was not part of a discussion, so I would have to find out more and get back to you.
I have just two comments. One, to echo what everyone is saying, that just being proactive would be a good thing in terms of communication. The second point, and three total, is also the contingency plans. I very much appreciate we have thought about it, and there's also a good chance that there could be further delays. So again, starting to prepare for a March extension, to be realistic, or maybe even through the end of the school year is something we should be looking into, because it's likely than not, given the tariff environments and all those different things, parts and supplies, logistics that are happening. And thirdly, I do recognize that, from peak athletic performance, temperature and all those, I don't know a whole lot about it, are important, but I think what we need to focus on is there are technical limitations to it, to how much we can try to accommodate. And as long as we are cognizant of what we are trying to do, and again, communicating the same to the best of our ability, I think that's the right way to approach it.
maybe then just establish like a cadence of communication with the swim parents, right? That might be easier than just saying give regular updates. Maybe just have a regular update planned so that they know things are coming, because I've seen them request a lot of information. They are spending a lot of their time and they are just doing it for their students. So we owe it to them to just maybe establish proactive communication that way, right? And we can utilize them. They are ready to help. They are ready to do things for us. They are providing a lot of information. Let's take advantage of that. Let's listen to them.
Okay, so communication, proactive communication is great and wonderful, but like, I'm more concerned with what if the pool can't get to temperature? Like, what are our contingency plans? Like, I mean, what are we communicating? Are we just communicating things that, I mean, we don't have time, we don't know anything, so I don't even know what we're communicating. What are we being proactive about? I don't know.
I mean, what comes to mind is communicating like our current plan, what we know and what we don't know.
And the
is what comes to my
progress of
mind
the
in
plan.
terms of that.
Okay.
Alternatives in case they can't get their pool temp down.
I'm not hearing alternatives, though, that's the thing, like, I'm not hearing any alternatives if they can't do that. So I don't know what we're gonna do with these kids in the morning. Like I said, I'm not a pool expert, but trying to fluctuate, I don't even know how many degrees, does not seem like it's gonna be that easy, but maybe it is.
I think the better question to ask is, whatever temperatures we're talking about, again, not knowing anything about the physiology and all that aspects, if it's within the acceptable range, I mean, we'll have a range, so we have to kind of see if we are within it. We don't want to put anyone in harm's way, but if 83 is not an extreme temperature, that's an option to consider. I don't know.
No, it is not an acceptable
No,
temperature.
I don't know. I'm just saying that. I don't know
I'm
what are the
telling you
standards.
that is not an acceptable
enough. Yeah,
temperature.
absolutely.
Just coming from that background. So.
Fair enough.
When will the park district know if they have that fluctuation?
Don't know.
I think
We'll
that,
find out, but yeah, I don't know.
I think that's what everyone is struggling with here, Dan, is that we don't have a concrete plan, we don't have backup plans, we don't know by when we will get information. So we need to start pushing on this harder to get answers.
Yep, we'll get you more information.
Dan, I don't want to go out of scope, but how many times has the pool been drained in the last 365 days? Do we know?
Off the top of my head?
I
Once?
don't know.
Off the top of my head, once, but I don't necessarily keep a log
Okay,
on
because I
that.
thought it was more than that. I was just curious of the cost of draining the pool and how many times it's been done.
Well, we don't have to, in order to complete this work, the pool does not have to be drained again, correct?
For
Correct.
sure?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You have a student rep that has a question over there.
Sorry, just coming from a student's perspective, do the swimmers know and are okay with the afternoon time change? I think we all know that majority of students have their athletics right after school at 3:45. So like, and I know a lot of other students also have commitments right after their practice. Like I know like after my practice, I have stuff to do still. So are they all okay with this time switch? And like, if they aren't, like what's the alternative plan for that? Since I know the girls' season for swim and dive is already in season. So like, how would that affect things as they are right now?
Yeah, I don't think the communication has gone out yet. The communication is prepared, but has not gone out yet. And so I think that's part of the conversation with the parents in the meeting that Justin's going to offer with the parents to answer questions and talk through.
Do we know when that will be out?
Do I know when the communication will be out?
Yeah.
I do not know when the communication will be out.
Any other questions, team?
So we'll receive another update next month?
Yeah, if not sooner, but.
With
at the
more
next meeting,
answers?
For sure. Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. We'll go on to the next topic, 7C, Press Plus Issue 121 Policies Updates, first reading.
All right. At the committee, we went through the list of both tranches, as was discussed earlier. One of the ideas from the committee was to, at the first reading, was the idea of the committee was to walk through and kind of touch on each one and let you know what's happening with each of them, not to read every single thing that's happening with each of them, but to give you a high level for each of them. And so that's what we have prepared for this. If you recall the number of policies, there's a lot of information here, but we're trying to be transparent with you and walk through each one to be clear on kind of what's happening. And I think the idea is the second reading, we wouldn't go through the same exercise necessarily of each one. So if I'm starting with the first set with Press 121, the first one was Policy 2:200, which is types of school board meetings. The policy and footnotes, policy cross-references were updated. The policy is updated with minor style changes. And then an option is added for the posting location for where special meetings are. When you post the agenda, do you post it at the district office and the location that it's at? And yes, we do. So it's going to be reflected in that policy. 2:220 is school board meeting procedure. The policy cross-reference was updated in response to a change in the Open Meetings Act, adding performance of an active military duty as a service member as a reason a board member may attend a meeting remotely, and for continuous improvements on that one. Policy 2:250, access to public records. Think of this as like the FOIA policy. The policy and legal references were updated due to a new law, Public Act 104-438, that addressed requests for public records to be made into the body of an email and not as an attachment. I think partly because of you could have malware attached to an attachment, so that it has to be in the body. The ability of the requester to verify that they're a person rather than an AI-generated thing. And that junk mail is excluded from records, because depending on the search term, we could have a lot of junk mail show. That would be excluded from disclosing all those records. And it was updated for continuous improvement along with the legal references as well. Policy 2:260, uniform grievance procedure. The legal references were updated in response to Public Act 104-391 and for continuous improvement. Policy 4:165, awareness and prevention of child sexual abuse and grooming behaviors. That the legal references were updated. There was an update to the policy that removed grooming was redundant in a sentence. It was used twice at the beginning, one in the end. They removed the redundant one. And also there was some cross-references renumbered in accordance with a public act that was done. Policy 530, hiring process and criteria. That policy was updated for continuous improvement. Policy 2:250, leave of absence. That policy was updated and the legal references in response to the Family Neonatal Intensive Care Act, Intensive Care Leave Act, that allows employees to take a specified number of unpaid leave if their child is a patient in a neonatal intensive care unit. So that was a recent law that is now implemented in policy. 5:330, sick days, vacation, holidays, and leaves. That policy, the legal reference and footnotes were updated related to the same thing, the Family Neonatal Intensive Care Leave Act, as a list of the applicable acts. 6:65, social and emotional development, student social, emotional, and development. The policy, legal references are updated for continuous improvement. 6:100, using animals in the educational program. The legal references were updated in response to Public Act 104-391 and renumbered based on that law and how it changed the references in the code. 6:145, migrant students, the policy and cross-references were updated in response to a 5-year review. Policy 6:170, Title I programs, the policy, legal references, cross-reference were updated, and the policy was updated to more closely align with federal statutes and guidance and terminology used by ISB to ensure compatibility with the United States Department of Education's revised non-regulatory guidance. So using the same terminology and the words in the right way. The legal references and cross-references were also updated for continuous improvement. 6:180, extended instructional programs. The policy, legal references were updated for continuous improvement. Policy 7:20, harassment of students prohibited. The legal references were updated in response to the same law that renumbered some laws and for continuous improvement. Policy 7:50, school admissions and student transfers to and from non-district schools. The policy, legal references, and cross-reference were also updated for continuous improvement. Policy 7:100, health, eye, and dental examinations, immunizations, and exclusion of students. The legal references were updated in response to a law titled the Health Examinations and Immunization that was renumbered by the same public act that renumbered other statutes, and also for continuous improvement. Policy 7:185, teen dating violence prohibited. The policy, legal references are updated. The policy was updated for continuous improvement. The legal references are also updated in response to the renumbering. Policy 7220, bus conduct, that was updated for periodic review. Policy 7:230, misconduct by students with disabilities, that was up for periodic review. 7:240, conduct code for participants in extracurricular activities. The legal references are updated in response to the renumbering of the public laws. Policy 7:260, exemption from physical education. The legal references were updated in response to a 5-year review, and also based on the renumbering of that same law. Policy 7:280, communicable and chronic infectious disease, was a 5-year review, periodic review, excuse me. 7:300, extracurricular activities, the policy, legal reference updated for continuous improvement. And finally, for policy 8:90, parent organizations and booster clubs, the policy was updated in response to a 5-year review. So that is 121. This will not happen every time. This is a bit of a unique because we wanted to wait until we had the policy committee to do that. So there is a lot. Again, this won't likely be again in the future so much there, but we do have that now. So that was the first tranche.
Yeah, I was going to say before we move on, are there any of the policies in Press Plus 121 that the board would like to further discuss?
Keep going? All right. And those will be for further review at the following month. Now for press tranche 122. And again, this will be a lot, but we will walk through these. Policy 2:30, school district elections, that is periodic review. There are no changes. Policy 2:230, public participation at school board meetings and petitions to the board. Policy, legal reference, cross-references are updated in response to a 5-year review. Policies 340 on the superintendent, 350 on administrators other than the superintendent, and 360 on building principals. Those were all periodic review, no changes. Policy 4120 on food services, periodic review, no changes. And periodic review means it's a chance to get it in front of you and see, has there been updates, should there be changes to it, and that's, if there are no changes, it's a 5-year cycle. That's what when we say periodic review, no changes, that means it's been up for a review and there's no recommended changes from press. 4:175, convicted sex offender screening notifications. The policy is unchanged, 5-year review. 5:40, communicable and chronic infectious disease. The policy is updated, response to a 5-year review. 5:70, religious holidays. The legal references are updated in response to a 5-year review. 5:110, recognition of service. The policy is unchanged, periodic review. 5:140, solicitations by or from staff. The policy is unchanged, 5-year review. Policy 5:185, Family Medical Leave Act. This is periodic periodic review, no changes. However, this is one of the ones that we have to the attorney to check on to see if the language that is in there aligns with our current agreements that we already have in place. Policy 5:240, suspension. The policy is for a 5-year review, no changes, but that is also with the attorney. Suspension is about employee suspension, not children's suspension. That is also with the attorney to review. Policy 6:70, teaching about religions. The legal reference was updated in response to Mahmood v. Taylor, addressing the opt-out for curriculum based on parent religious objections. So that was updated in 6:70. 6:80, teaching about controversial issues. The legal references, cross-references were updated in response also to Mahmood versus Taylor, addressing opt-out from curriculum based on parent religious objections. This is also at the attorney review to review if there's any other changes that we should have for that policy. 6:190, extracurricular and co-curricular activities. The policy is updated to align with changes made to policy 7.330, student use of buildings, equal access, and for continuous improvement. That is the third policy that we have for review with the attorney. 7:30, student assignment and inter-district transfer. No changes, periodic review. 7:80, release time for religious instruction/observance. The policy is unchanged, 5-year review. 7:130, student rights and responsibilities. Legal references are updated. Legal references updated, excuse me. 7:330, student use of buildings, equal access. This policy was essentially completely rewritten in response to the Equal Access Act. And so that is, there's not a lot of lines there because it's essentially a completely rewritten policy to be more clear about student access to the use of our buildings. Policy 7:345, the use of educational technology, student data privacy and security. No changes, periodic review. Policy 8:70, accommodating individuals with disability. The policy and legal references were updated in response to a 5-year review. And 8:100, relations with other agencies, no changes, periodic review. So that is the list of the second tranche, the press group 122.
Thank you.
It is a lot, but again, it won't be like this every time. And so this is kind of a catch-up period for us. But we thought the committee talked about being important to kind of walk through them and be transparent with the changes that are going on.
And regarding policy 6:80, we're still waiting to hear back from our attorneys regarding that?
I believe we're still waiting to hear back on all the ones that we asked.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
There was a lot. Any questions from anyone else? If not, we will move into the next agenda item, the PE exemption policies review. Tom?
Yep, and I think our friends in AV are going to just set up a quick slide for us, and we'll get right into that.
Not this one.
Appreciate that. While they're working to get it set up, just want to recognize our board's support and our B&G crew for the summer construction on the library, and finally the new carpet, which looks fantastic. So LHS students, I know, are delighted, and we have new facility upgrade for our library for all of our students. All right, thank you, Eli. So we're going to do just a very quick policy and procedures update to the board on a discussion we've been having since last winter, which is our PE exemption policy and practice review. As a reminder, last spring, in February, we started a process to make sure that our PE exemption process was in full compliance with state and district policy. And let me just pull up my notes too here. Recently, we've taken a look at those practices, and we asked some key questions. Specifically, are they aligned with state guidance? Are they, the practices between each building fully aligned with each other? And are there any areas we might identify to improve the process for students and school operations? So we began looking at that in February. We updated the board in April. One of the things that we did as part of our process was meet with some small student groups to include their perspective in this process, as well as look at the practices between Vernon Hills and Libertyville in these areas. We came back in April, and at that time, we identified a few actions we were going to take. Specifically, we were adjusting some of the grading practices that were in place regarding heart rate monitors and fitness test scores. We fully aligned the PE exemption practices between our high schools so that both schools were operating with the same guidance and the same practices. And then we wanted to build out our exemption process for students seeking exemptions for non-athletic reasons. So we worked to do that. And then we came back this summer and we took a look at, we had some other questions brought forward about some of our requirements with regards to fitness testing, as well as the implementation of the new guidelines. So our administrative team, we sent all of these questions as well as all of our PE guidelines and procedures to our district's legal firm to provide us with a comprehensive review. Legal counsel just sent Dr. Schaefer the results of their review this afternoon, and I believe that was shared with you as a board today. The legal review found the district's current policies and procedures are generally compliant, though they did offer us some clarification on a few key areas. Among those, we asked them to review was our current return to class policy, which creates two return dates for our athletes in the fall and in the winter. Legal felt this was aligned with state guidance and in compliance with all of the codes that we need to follow. The legal firm also felt that our second question about teachers assigning students grades for participation in the state fitness testing. So we know as a district we cannot use student scores from the fitness test to create a grade. However, what we do is, like any day of class, students receive participation and effort scores. So if they were doing volleyball, they would receive participation and effort for volleyball. The day that they're doing the fitness testing, the teachers also give them a grade for participation and effort. Our legal team found that there are no issues with teachers assigning grades, that this is in alignment with state code. And in addition to these questions, we also asked our team to review practices related to our fitness testing, because it has been the understanding of the schools and administration that the state fitness test was a mandatory requirement. Therefore, our PE exemption process stated that exemptions would begin after the students completed their fitness exams, and our PE departments moved the fitness exams up to the beginning of the year so that students can take those before being exempt. So the legal firm clarified for us that though the fitness test is a state requirement, students who are exempt from PE at the time of the administration of the test would also be considered by the state to be exempt from the fitness test and are not required to make up that exam. So essentially, our district's practice, we do have discretion on if we want students to take the fitness test before being exempt. That has been our historical practice. We have felt that that was a mandate. That is not a mandate. We, as a district, have discretion in whether or not we wish to make participation in the fitness testing a part of our PE class for all students, and if we want to do it before we give students their exemptions. So with that clarified guidance, we met with our PE department chairs and administration. We have more flexibility than we thought we had. And so as a result, our PE department chairs and district administration are recommending the following adjustments to our PE exemption process. We are recommending that we remove the language from PE exemption guidelines that indicate that this test is mandatory and that exemption occurs after the test is completed. So we would remove that. And what we would do is we would say that IHSA athletic PE exemptions begin when these following conditions are met. So students would attend class at the beginning of each semester for 2 or 3 days in order to have their orientation. They would meet their teacher, they would meet classmates, they would get assigned their lockers, get all of the logistics down, and then the students would complete their PE waiver form, which is essentially them saying they want to be exempt, because not every athlete chooses to be exempt from PE. They then also need to be officially placed on an IHSA roster. And there is some time variability within that. Some of our sports are able to do that within the first 3 days in the fall. Other sports may take a little bit longer, but generally we would have most of our students rostered within the first few days. Once that is set and our school administration finalizes all the logistics, we would be able to exempt students, and they would no longer be required to participate in the fitness testing. So basically, for the majority of our kids, they would be exempt within the first 3 days of the semester, rather than waiting about a week and a half for those exemptions to occur. What this looks like in practice for us with the fitness testing, we would make some changes to that. Our freshmen are not exempt. They cannot exempt from PE for athletic purposes. So our freshmen, and they only take PE for a semester. You either take it first semester or second semester, depending on when health falls. So for freshmen, they would take PE fitness testing semester 1 or semester 2, and they would do a pre-test and a post-test, which is encouraged by the state so that students can see their fitness gains over the course of a semester. For our 10th to 12th grader, our recommendation is to no longer administer the fitness test in the fall, but to only administer the fitness test in second semester, which is when the state requires it be administered, and that winter athletes, they would return to class at the beginning of second semester for meeting a new teacher and getting all the orientation that they need, but they would not be required to participate in the fitness testing at that time because their exemption would then kick back in and they would be exempt from the test. So in the review of all of the legal guidance, we think our practices, for the most part, would stay in place. This would be the one change we would make. It's sort of a moot point right now because our fall athletes right now are already exempt for this semester, but we would initiate this basically immediately. Any new students coming to us, and then starting second semester, this new practices would be in place. Yeah, questions?
In the law, does it say that there needs to be a uniform return date?
For all kids returning on the same date, like at the same time?
Well, we have 2 uniform return dates.
Right.
That's spelled out in the law? I didn't see it.
It is not. It does not say that all kids have to return on the same date.
Okay, because I heard words like flexibility and discretion.
Yep.
And while our policies may align with the law, there is a lot more latitude and flexibility and discretion that we asked for that I haven't seen any bit of at all. We asked for you to come to, like, there was an understanding, I believe there was consensus and an understanding that at the time, we could not have athletes exempt because course selections had already taken place, so we couldn't have them exempt and allow them to take a course. I know specifically that I had asked that we look at that as an option. I haven't heard of that at all even being looked at as an option. Are we looking at that as an option? Did we ask legal if there's a way that we can do that and support our students and look at the best interests of our students and allow them, instead of exempt to be in a study hall, to exempt and take academic courses that may be necessary for college? Maybe they wouldn't have to take 0-hour gym anymore and, you know, be out of the house 12, 14, 16 hours a day, so that they can take the academic courses that they need for the colleges they want to get into. Have we looked at any of that?
We have. We worked and presented to you as a board last year and asked legal if we are compliant. And our trouble with the full semester is that the guidance from the state says students have to return to PE after their exemption ends. So for.
That's not what it says. It says when practical.
When practical, correct.
When practical, but if
Yes,
they're enrolled
after
in
the
a
sport.
course, that no longer makes it practical to return, in my opinion. We can get a legal opinion on that, but, I mean, I feel like this is the second time now I've said it, and you keep saying that we're conformed with the law, but what I'm saying could conform with the law as well. We're not using the discretion and the flexibility that was built into the law for the best interests of our students. That's my opinion. I'm saying it again for the second time now, that I would like to see
You would
us do that, and if we can't, I want a legal opinion that says we can't.
So you would like our legal team to review if we could, instead of enrolling a student in PE, enroll them in a different class and then exempt them from the entire semester of PE because they are in a different class.
That makes it no longer a practical return, and I'm not really asking for a legal opinion, I'm just asking that that's what we do.
Well,
And one of the
certainly-
factors for the student's practical for return is a class schedule. And we're supposed to be looking at these exemptions on an individual basis for each student. And I know at opening day, Dr. Schaefer made an emphasis on focusing on each student this year. So we need to look at how we can better serve our students and utilize the flexibility that is granted to us in the state code.
But we, to that point, this was only for our IHSA athletic exemptions. We created last year the new updated guidelines for non-athletic exemption requests, and we standardized that process at both schools. So if a student does have a request as an individual about a college course or about a need for graduation, they have a process where they can make that request, and that is reviewed by not our PE chairs, but by our assistant principals and principals for approval. So I think that was our attempt to meet that need, to be able to look at each student need for a possible exemption beyond an IHSA athletic exemption.
How many have those non-athletic exemptions been granted?
I'm not aware of, I'm not aware of any being brought forward at this time. I don't know if the principals have any update on that.
We had one request and one approval.
Okay.
To my knowledge, we get none.
And then, I just want to add this out there too.
I'm sorry, Julie. You
go
said
ahead.
you had one request and one approval, so one.
Once the forms got updated that Dr. Calentes talked about, the forms that I received that came up through the assistant principal and me, I've had one, and it was approved.
And I just want to say that I know that my request does have like some logistical complications that would need to be worked through, and that's why I'm asking to see some sort of proposal on it. I mean, I think it's relatively simple if a child decides to quit their sport or not try out for a sport, that they can go return to PE. I mean, like, that's an easy thing. That would happen anytime. That there's typically always room for a child to return to PE. So participation, I think, is like less of a concern because we can rectify and solve that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be clear. If a student were to not, I think part of our difficulty is if a student were to not enroll in PE because they're going to be exempt, and then they were to drop that sport, right? But now they've enrolled in psychology. Are we saying they would have to drop out of psychology to return to PE class? I think that's one of the logistical things that we found was unacceptable when we were working on the procedures last year. That's why
Our schools are able to figure it out. You know, I mean, I guess it would come to a point, like if a child doesn't try out for the sport, I mean, yeah, then they don't take that, they're not exempt. I mean, those are the logistical things that I think do have to be worked through, but we're not even attempting.
Well, it's the board's decision on how to kind of set up our PE exemption policies. There are certain things with PE exemption that are sort of mandatory, like medical, that we have to. There's other things that are more discretionary. Our job as a district is to provide you with recommendations, and then you as a board to decide if you want to accept those. It is not currently our recommendation that we would allow a student to exempt for registering for another class for an entire semester. I certainly can go back to legal and get a legal opinion on if that's even aligned to code or not and bring you that information. We could look at options if the board so chooses to have us do that. We could look at options for what that might actually entail and how that process might run. And then if the board were to be inclined to make that part of our policies, that's something we would do.
Well, I know Warren Township and Belvedere, I might have it with me, district, I'll have to look it up. But they both have their policies and procedures on their websites. Yeah, I don't have it with
Have
me.
a student rep thing.
So other schools are making it happen.
We'll let
We have some student voice also.
Sorry, this is more just like like a student insight on this. With PE exemptions, as someone who is on the student council executive board, and where it is a period in our day, we, as to my knowledge, have 2 students that are taking 3 sports, 2 exempt from gym, to be a part of student council. So I'm like, just from like a student insight, like we are having students kind of already do that to take not academic classes, but to do other elective extracurricular classes. One of them is your daughter.
Right, but she wasn't able to start. She was in PE, and then she's going to be expected to return for 2 months of PE in the spring.
Okay, and then, so again, I'm just a little confused. So it's like the first time that you're hearing this direction? Because I swear we gave consensus last time.
Well, last year, when we looked at this, if you recall, we did talk about this option, and we did not believe that this was something that we could do, nor was it something that we felt was in our district's interest to do in terms of like listening. When we were talking with part of our student feedback about it, I did not realize that we had a directive from the board to
Explore, not do, explore.
Mhm.
I'm just going to have to go back and watch the tape.
Yeah, well, I'm not trying to be defensive on it. This is where the presentation that we landed at last April was what we presented. We did not have that as part of our plans in April, and it was not raised as an objection at that time by the board. If it's surfacing now, then that's something that we'll need to take a look at. What we communicated last April was what we started.
I'm one voice. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
No, I'm just a bit confused. So here we are asking that we allow students, again, I'm just for my understanding, that students get PE exemptions so that they can take the courses of their choice for whatever reasons. Is that the?
If students qualify for PE exemptions, instead of just going into a study hall that they're able to take
In the Illinois school code, there is some flexibility for 11th and 12th graders. And they have options where they may be able to take an additional class. Especially, the state of Illinois is one of the few states that mandates 4 years of PE. So that means that we're going to have students that could potentially be going up against other students who have not had that mandate. So there could be students who potentially have 4 additional AP classes or whatever, especially when it comes to these highly competitive colleges and universities. And looking at how we can best serve our students, this is something I think we need to take a serious look at.
No.
Because we have students who are giving up band and orchestra in order to fit PE into their schedule. They receive no credit for PE at colleges and universities.
No, I'm completely aware of the 4-year requirement and some flexibility in the 11th and 12th grade for students. The challenge here I see is technically every student to be competitive will want that exemption because you can take an extra AP course each semester, and you will want that exemption. So that, the question here is then, do we have that latitude even as part of the flexibility that the Illinois Code offers, that every student who is in 11th
If I
and
may
12th
interrupt,
grade?
or if I may add, that was part of the discussion last spring, was we felt it was inequitable to allow just athletes to have the ability to exempt from PE and take another class. If you're in an IHSA sport, you would have the ability to take an extra class, and students that were not in an IHSA sport would not have that ability. They would be taking PE. So what we did instead was we clarified to the students who want to take an additional class have the ability to do the non-athletic PE exemption request process. So if there is a student in that situation, they would be able to request and have that reviewed by the principal and the assistant principal as an option for PE exemption. But part of our reason as a district for not recommending that students could enroll in a different class was we felt that that would be an inequity for students who participate in IHSA sports. They would have an option that non-IHSA athletes or just non-athletes would not have.
Then when we're talking about equity, I also brought up at that same meeting the issue of equity of zero-hour gym and transportation. Was that ever solved?
I do not believe there have been any changes at this point to the zero-hour PE.
Okay, so how is that an equitable option for everyone? I mean, is that equitable?
The situation you're speaking of is that there's no transportation for zero-hour PE?
Yeah, so if your parents are unable to provide transportation, you just can't take it.
That is maybe a possibility, yes.
No, I mean, a possibility, or, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't, like, there's not ambiguity in that statement.
And you don't have other forms of transportation, you may not be able to take zero-hour PE, yes.
So effectively, zero-hour PE is not equitable. So we're talking about all these things, but it's not, across the board. We're picking and choosing words like equity and applying them when, sometimes, but not all the time. That's what I'm hearing.
Okay. So you're asking, and I'm assuming if this is a directive from the board, I will go and Dr. Schaefer and I will coordinate meetings with our attorneys on the legality of this, as well as build out potential options for the board to consider on students having greater flexibility towards exemptions of PE and enrolling in a different class.
I mean, I don't know what everybody thinks, but I mean, that also just skipped over the whole zero-hour PE inequity, so I don't know.
Another question.
Okay, so while we're still on the topic of exemptions, the other board reps and I kind of wanted to highlight something that we've realized over like the past couple weeks since school started, especially with the fall sports. This year was the first year where none of our peers have really expressed concern regarding exemptions. I know in past years and past sports seasons, a lot of our peers haven't really
Oop, mic change.
been receiving exemptions on time, or it's been taking like multiple weeks on end for them to be receiving their exemptions, and there's kind of been like an imbalance. But this year, everyone pretty much got their exemptions around the same time within like the first or second week of their fall sports starting. And I know you briefly talked about like student feedback and implementing some new policies to help mitigate the issues we've seen in the past years with exemptions and getting that on time. And the reps and I were wondering what specific policies those are, because we came to a consensus that it would be really helpful and important if we continue doing what we did this fall sports season regarding getting exemptions on time, because it was very effective.
Specifically, it will only accelerate it'll be even faster in the future because this year you had, as a student, you had to take the fitness test. And in the future, what we're saying is that if you are a student athlete in the fall, you will no longer have to take the fitness test, so that you will only be in class for maybe 2 or 3 days while you meet your teacher, you get all of your lockers set, and then you can get, you're on the roster, and then you would be exempt from that point forward.
Okay, thank you. And then we also wanted to mention one other thing about fitness testing. Do you want to share? Okay.
We kind of want to mention how fitness testing this year kind of changed. Last year and like the years prior, a lot of students kind of like didn't really feel relieved, or like they kind of felt stressed when fitness testing came up because they had to take it in the beginning of the semester and then at the end, and then so on for the next semester. So like for the changes that occurred this year, I feel like for me at least, and for other peers, they expressed that they felt a little more relieved with the changes. Yeah.
So the changes that we made just from last year to this year were positive, and that moving forward, it sounds like would be even aligned to improving it even more because you'd be able to be out of PE a little faster for your exemption.
Yeah, and also just it created a very positive environment regarding fitness testing, and a lot of my peers, a lot of people that I've talked to in previous gym classes have gotten very stressed about fitness testing, especially the PACER test. I know if someone's in a fall sport and they score higher on the PACER test in the beginning of the year because they're active, and then they take it in the spring and they decrease because they're not training as much. I know in past years it's been impactful to grades, but this year it seems more effort-based, and it's been really showing in like the positive attitude in gym class, showing that you don't have to prove yourself based on a statistic, but more so prove yourself based on how much effort your teacher's watching you put in. And it's been very helpful for like the mental health aspect. I know fitness testing can be a sensitive topic for lots of students, and this year I haven't really observed among my peers, and I know you guys mentioned it too, any negative opinions towards fitness testing because of the positive environment it's created.
It's great. Yeah, thank you for that feedback.
The last thing I want to say to clarify is that it's not just for the athletic waivers. Like, I'm saying these policies for all PE waivers. So it's PE waivers, not just athletic PE waivers. So that does diminish some of the equity issues. Anybody who qualifies, it's not just athletic. I mean, it would be all of them.
Right, you're clarifying that it's not just our IHSA athletic waivers, but that
Be
any
all-
student, right, would have
Who-
that example.
And it also
Any
needs
who's
to
granted a
be-
waiver. Anybody who's granted a waiver, not just any student. Because
And it also needs to be communicated that this is an option, because I know so many families who are completely unaware that this even exists. And I do think it's absolutely unacceptable that instead of sharing this option with families, we're allowing students to not take a lunch, to take a class.
that was discussed at the last one, too.
That should never be okay. And then in regards to the not being graded for fitness and keeping it a participation-only grade, I think it's important to pay attention to how teachers are inputting the grades. And so during fitness testing, I think it should just be a daily participation grade, because there were some concerns that it looked like they were being graded on fitness. And I know it was the participation, but the way it was coming across through Power School, it said, physical participation, and then it listed like the PACER. And in other classes, it was showing as just daily participation. So we need to make sure that it's consistent. And then one more thing we need to think about as far as when the exemptions go into play is next year, our start date, I believe, is August 18th, or is it We're starting later next year. So maybe it's the 16th.
It is a week,
It's the
approximately a
18th?
week later, yes.
Okay. Well, for the 2027 IHSA fall start dates, that is Monday, August 9th, and I know football starts earlier. So will these students be able to submit their forms? They show up on the first day of class to check in, and then will they be, because tryouts will be over at that point in time, correct?
For
So
many
starting a
teams, that's
week earlier.
possible. We would still want them to come to class like the first 2 days. That's where they meet their teacher. They learn all about the class. They meet their other classmates. They get their lockers, and all the logistics are set. And for many of the students, they're going to be returning to class at some point during the semester, so that's their chance to learn that. And then we would be able to start, assuming those other conditions were in place, they're on a roster, and then the school also needs time to make sure all of that is organized. But assuming that all of that's in place, yes, that's our intent, is that they would be exempt from PE.
Right, so for example, cheer and dance. Those athletes know they're on the team in the spring. So after they try out and they make the team, they should be able to submit their waivers in preparation for the school year so that that's ready to go. And then they check in for 2 days, so then, if we start on a Monday, by Wednesday, they should be able to go to study hall, because that's when a lot of the homework is starting. And then for the other athletes, they should also be encouraged to submit their forms for those who wish to waive, because I know that not everyone waives, that's a personal choice. So making sure that we're just being much more efficient.
Okay? That is the intent, to make that exemption process much more expedient. And that is our recommendation with why we would no longer hold the fitness test for them. I just want clarification. So we presented our current practices and policies last April. I'm sorry if I misunderstood. I thought the board found those satisfactory. I'm hearing that there is a request for, at least, the board potentially may request that I look at greater, I reconnect with legal to do a deeper dive on the process of students exempting for an entire semester and enrolling in a different course. We also, I'm hearing from a board member to look into the 0-hour PE and to consider transportation options, or at least to consider that in light of the equity issues that it presents. And then as well, to work with the buildings, making sure that any of the enrollments that, for sports that take place in the spring, would be able to be identified and move forward quickly in the fall.
So we want to verify that that is board consensus, that that's those 3 areas that Dr. Colentis has shared. Is that the consensus of the board, that board would like us to follow up on those items and then come back with that information?
I would agree.
Yes.
Mark, there's
Yes.
one other thing that I don't know if you would be able to do it, or Tom, you guys are really connected with the other high schools. I'd be curious to know what the other high schools do with their non-athletic PE exemptions, like a Lake Forest High School, Highland Park, Deerfield, New Trier, Stevenson. I'd be curious to know what they do with that, as well as their zero period PE, because I know most of the high schools have that. But I don't know what they do for transportation for that.
Yeah, we're happy to look into that and look at surrounding districts to see how they handle similar situations.
Oftentimes a survey that you guys, then they could use the survey to inform their board and their communities as well.
Yeah, it was part of our process last year, and we can update and look at that to see if anything has changed. Okay?
Any other questions, team? If not, we will move on to the next item, which is the strategic plan presentation.
Good evening, Board of Education. This evening, we are pleased to bring forward to you our presentation for the proposed strategic plan for the 2026-2029 school year. As a reminder, this has been a 6+ month process that has involved a broad array of stakeholders, community members, students, staff, board members, community partners, et cetera. And what is being presented for you this evening is the outcomes of those discussions and a plan for your review and consideration. So the first slide here is a product of the work that came from our spring work with Dr. Joe Porto, where a broad group of our community came together to define our mission and then our beliefs and values. These words were curated and cultivated by the group themselves, and they're strong, they're powerful statements, but these were the values that we anchored the work of our priority areas and our strategic plan in. Our beliefs show where students thrive in these areas. And then the mission statement was igniting the potential of each student through relevant, rigorous learning rooted in belonging and support. So I know a number of you as board members were part of those conversations, but these words reflect verbatim what came out of our work over the spring. So the next slide is an overview of our 4 priority areas. And so we have 4 priority areas which members of Cabinet will be walking you through. The 4 priority areas include excellence and readiness. So key priority around academic excellence and college career and community readiness. We have second priority is culture of belonging. Third area is human talent. And our 4th and final area is financial stewardship. This evening, Cabinet members will take the opportunity to walk you through each of our priority areas and talk through that with you. So I first introduce Dr. Colentis, who will walk you through excellence and readiness.
Okay, thank you. The first priority that was identified by our community is academic excellence and readiness. And so what we really define that as is each student experiencing rigorous, relevant, and supportive learning experiences that develop their daring attributes, their academic mastery, their learner agency, and then their post-secondary readiness. So that's kind of our definition of that. We break this down into 3 primary areas. We want high standards for our students, but we also want to make sure that when we talk about academic excellence, we're talking about that for all students. So our first area is to improve the percentage of students who are meeting the standards under the college career readiness indicators. That's what the state of Illinois uses as a way to measure student success. That includes things like the ACT scores, AP scores, ACT in areas of English, language arts, and math, but it also includes a lot of other indicators that are broader to all students' academic success. The second area is we not only want high standards for our students, but we want students to be ready for life after high school, and we want them to be active, engaged in their development of their educational plans and in the connection of those plans to the future that they're envisioning for themselves. So the second area is future readiness, and this is where every student will, upon graduation, have an academic plan and digital literacy that is connected to their post-secondary journey. And then empowered learners is about us working to develop student voice and student agency in their learning so that rather than be passive learners in our classrooms, they are taking a more active stance in creating and generating the knowledge that they know is important to their life after high school. Those are our 3 broad areas under Priority 1, and that would be the focus for a lot of the teaching and learning and academic curriculum work we will be doing over the next few years. I turn it over to Mary, who's going to talk about Priority 2.
Thank you, Tom. Priority 2 is culture of belonging. And I will read that to you. Culture of belonging, cultivate an uncompromising environment of belief and belonging where every student, employee, family, and community member is valued, supported, engaged, and empowered to thrive. So for the 26-27 school year, our work under this priority is going to be in two main areas: student connection and well-being, and engaged and trusted partnerships. So goal 1 is the student connection and well-being, and there's basically 4 key areas that we're going to focus on for this year. The first is strengthening student voice. We'll be evaluating and gathering and responding more fully to student feedback. Second, we will be increasing access to athletics and activities, identifying any barriers to participation that students may be experiencing, and see how we can connect them better. Third, strengthening attendance and early interventions. So looking at anything that we can do to support the students that are not, it's particularly focusing on students that are below the 90% attendance level. And fourth, advancing inclusive and equitable practices, and that would be identifying gaps that would strengthen classroom practices. And we will also be launching a district-level student equity committee and reviewing our current equity policy. And goal 2 is engaged and trusted partnerships. And there are 3 areas that we're looking at focusing on in that goal, and that would be improving communication and engagement, which would start off with a communication audit. We will expand family, business, and community partnerships district-wide. And third, ensuring safe, secure, and welcoming learning environments. And with that, I will turn it to Bhavna, who will talk about priority 3.
Thank you. Priority 3 is human talent, and that is really about the people, focusing on the people of our district. And in order for our students to learn, sorry. Is it on? Sorry. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Sorry, I'll start again. Priority 3 is about human talent. We are focusing and prioritizing on our people. And in order for our students to learn, grow, thrive, and be successful, we have to make sure that we have the right people in the right roles of our organization and supporting them once they're here. So our first goal area is to recruit, develop, and retain exceptional employees. And we are really going to be looking at our systems and processes of how do we recruit new hires, where are we reaching them, and kind of looking at a complete audit of that process. Once we recruit and hire them, how do we onboard them, making sure there's a rigorous and quality onboarding process and make sure there's a system in place and every level of the organization knows about it and it's consistent. Then developing those employees once they're here with professional development and leadership opportunities, and then so we can keep them here longer, especially our strong ones, and make sure there's a system of accountability for retaining them. Our second goal is about fostering an engaged and high-performing workplace. That's all about our culture. How do we create a positive culture in our district for our adults, making sure that people feel valued, supported, included, and accountable in the work that they're doing, making sure they're valued and recognized. So we're going to be looking at some ways that we are currently recognizing our employees. How do they feel healthy in their workplace environment, looking at survey data, collecting that survey data, and then putting in action plans of what are we doing well, we're going to continue doing, what do we need to strengthen, and what are we looking for opportunities of growth. And by the end of the day, investing in our people is really an investment in our students and our future for District 128. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Priority 4 with Mr. Stanley.
Can't do any of those if we don't have resources in order to pay for things to do that. So priority 4 is about financial stewardship. And the idea behind that is stewarding the resources the district has responsibly through transparent financial planning, strategic investments that sustain exceptional learning opportunities for both current and future students. The first goal under this is about financial sustainability. That's maintaining the district's long-term financial health through responsible budgeting, so that means a balanced budget. Strategic planning, so that's making sure we have our 5-year projections for our trajectories, and appropriate financial reserves, that we have the right amount of fund balance, not too much, not too little. The second goal is sustainable learning environments, and so think of the buildings and the capital projects and things, so providing safe, modern, and sustainable learning environments through strategic planning, responsible investment, and transparent community engagement. This is going to be related to the facility condition assessment that is underway right now, and then into updating our long-term capital with that information, and then looking at how to pay for all the changes that we're looking to do. So those are the 2 goals under Priority 4, financial stewardship.
So this strategic plan is being, the next slide. So our next steps, we are providing to you and the community an overview of our 4 priority areas. We would be seeking board support and approval at your September meeting, and then we would be looking to launch and initiate our strategic plan. Strategic plan provides a compass and direction for the work of the district. It focuses our priorities on the work that matters. It aligns the work and holds us accountable to ensure great outcomes in each of the priority areas. Our commitment to the board and the community is to provide updates throughout the school year on our benchmarks and our progress in each of these areas, so that we, over the 3-year span of this strategic plan, will see continuous growth and improvement. So these are, again, the priority areas. Each have associated action plans, metrics in which to measure them, and resources needed. Purpose of this presentation this evening was to provide you just an overview of our priority areas and the key areas within each. So we are open now for any questions or points of clarification.
Just a comment. I think under your leadership, when this the strategic plan was initiated, it was a comprehensive effort coming from the district, the support of the board, and more importantly, the community and the students. So very much appreciate the initial steps you took. And at this point, I believe the strategic plan that we have laid out for us or the community to consider is a holistic input from all important stakeholders that are invested in this district.
And I would just like to add one other point. I think it's very commendable that we've been able to lay out a strategic plan, use it to benchmark performance and so forth. But another key piece is strategic thinking. And just because it's laid out in the plan, a year down the road, if we're set with an obstacle, we need to have the capacity as leadership to strategically think through for the success of our district.
I just want to say that I really appreciate how student-centered our strategic plan is. So I was really happy to see that. The one thing that I think as a board, we need to make sure that we can answer, or what specific measurable outcomes are we committing to achieve by 2029? What are the current baselines, and then what are going to be our annual targets? And then how often will the board receive a public progress report showing whether or not those targets were met? Because from it's not our job to make it happen, but we do have the responsibility of oversight and making sure we're on target, what's the plan if we don't hit those targets, and ultimately what results will we see in 2029?
Thank you. I think the need for clear metrics and deliverables is critical, as well as transparency to the board and the community in terms of our trajectory. To Doug's point, also the ability to be agile as we continue to move and grow through the strategic plan to ensure that we are making progress. Initially, a lot of our initial work will be on the benchmarking and level setting and curation of baselines to form targets and metrics. So some areas, especially in areas 2, 3, and 4, are more of deliverables. Area 1, which is on academic excellence, those will be taking place early in really year 1 as you look at what the areas are, would be setting targets and then metrics. Our commitment is to provide updates to the Board of Education. So we would have at least 3 or possibly 4 quarterly updates. What we also want to do is turn to the board on what you see as the priority areas. Each of these areas are important. We will absolutely be focusing on all of these, but as we provide substantive reports in each of these areas, it might be helpful for the board to define 2 or 3 priority or key areas that you would like us to regularly report on. And again, we can absolutely do that and deliver on that.
Mark, I have one question. Is it possible to create a dashboard that I think would be helpful, that dashboard be updated at least monthly and then reporting on a quarterly basis? That way, those targeted objectives can be quantifiably tracked by board members.
Absolutely.
Doug, you took the words out of my mouth. I mean, it might be good to actually publish it on our website where we know that we are committing to everybody that these are our success metrics, right? Like, this is how we measure success. And if people can see it all the time, that brings a lot more transparency than us giving an update and us having interpretations on it.
And the sooner we get that dashboard up, the better off we'll be.
Yeah, absolutely. Once the board supports and approves, we are committed to placing a dashboard on our website so that and continuously updating it to show growth towards each progress area.
Yeah, because, I mean, for any strategy or strategic plan, right, execution is key, and we need to measure the success of our execution. Otherwise, it's just wishful thinking, right? So. Any other comments? Okay. We'll move on to the next item, which is the consent vote agenda. Is there anything on the consent vote agenda that anyone would like to review separately? If not, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the consent vote agenda as presented.
Deshmukh, so moved.
Poland second.
For me. Poland.
Aye.
Simpson.
Aye.
Sophie.
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
Deshmukh.
Aye.
Fliegel.
Aye.
Cotwall.
Aye. Next up, we are going to move into the action items. First up on the agenda is the 2026-2027 EdRed membership. Can we go, let's have a motion to approve the 2026-2027 EdRed membership dues
Poland
in the amount of
Fliegel second.
$5,350.
Poland so moved.
Fliegel second.
Any questions?
Simpson.
Aye.
Sophie.
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
Deshmukh.
Aye.
Fliegel.
Aye.
Cotwall.
Aye.
Poland.
Aye.
Next up on the agenda, we have the approval of intergovernmental agreement by and between school district members of the Central Suburban League regarding payment of IHSA licensed officials for athletic events. Can we have a motion for approval of intergovernmental agreement by and between school district members of the Central Suburban League regarding payment of IHSA licensed officials for athletic events.
So moved. Sophie.
Austin, second.
Dan, do you want to do a quick one line off?
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
anybody
so this
has-
is an agreement between all of the CSL districts to formalize the arrangement for the CSL in terms of setting the pays for it and acknowledging that Vernon Hills will be unique in that it will likely pay more because we as a district want to pay the same, even though we have two different high schools in two different conferences that might have different rates. We're going to match so that we pay the same. So whether you officiate for Libertyville High School or you officiate for Vernon Hills High School, you'll be paid the same.
Oh, Sophie,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Deschmok,
Aye.
Fliegel,
Aye.
Cotwall,
Aye.
Poland,
Aye.
Simpson.
Aye.
Next up, can we have a motion to approve the resolution to regulate expense reimbursement for board policies 2:125 board member compensation expenses and 5:60 expenses?
Austin, so moved.
Second, Sophie.
Anyone has questions on this annual resolution as required by the board policy?
Ready? Austin,
Aye.
Deschmok,
Aye.
Fliegel,
Aye.
Cotwall,
Aye.
Poland,
Aye.
Simpson, Sophie.
Aye.
So next up on the agenda, we have an educational support personnel reduction in force and reassignment. Can we have a motion to approve the resolution for reduction and reassignment of the registered nurse position?
Motion legal.
Deshmukh, second.
Dan, do you want to quickly go over it?
Yeah, we have a full-time FTE registered nurse at Libertyville High School and a .2 FTE registered nurse at Transition Pathways, 1.2 total. That's how that's been structured, and we believe that we would like to rearrange that to have 2.6s rather than a 1.0 and a .2. We're having a very hard time attracting and retaining the .2 and believe that the .6 will be better. Libertyville will still have a 1.0 available. It'll just be served by two people. One person will be there 3 days a week, the other one will be there approximately 2 days a week, and then the other one will be at Transition Pathways. And so because there is someone in the 1.0 position right now, we can't just change it to a .6, like send an email. We have to do a reduction in force. This person is aware of this, and they are looking forward to this being a .6. And so this is a pretty straightforward thing, but this is an action we have to take in order to formally change it from a 1.0 to the .6.
Any questions from anyone?
Deschmok,
Aye.
Fliegel,
Aye.
Cotwall,
Aye.
Poland,
Aye.
Simpson, Sophie,
Aye.
Austin.
Aye.
Okay. Next up, can we have a motion to approve the included resolution to authorize intervention in property tax appeals?
Motion legal.
Poland, second.
Does anyone have any questions?
No, I want to applaud Dan for getting this done. Most districts do this in September, and he's on top of the game. And his documents are all together, and it looked great, so I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
Fliegel,
Aye.
Cotwall,
Aye.
Poland,
Aye.
Simpson,
Aye.
Sophie,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Deschmok.
Aye.
So next up on the agenda, we have the FY '27 budget adoption. Can we have a motion and second to approve?
Poland, so moved.
Austin, second.
Anyone has any questions? Because we've gone through this a few times.
Cotwall,
Aye.
Poland,
Aye.
Simpson,
Aye.
Sophie,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Deschmok,
Aye.
Fliegel.
And please remember, all of you have to sign the budget document, so please make sure you sign that piece of paper before you leave tonight. All 7, please. Thank you.
No one can leave before that. Okay. Next up, we have items for information. Anyone has anything to report?
I have something for Ed Red.
Yeah.
On Monday, August 10th, was the legislative breakfast for Ed Red. I was not able to attend because it was the first day of school, so I had to be home for pictures. But I do want to thank our very own Dan Stanley for helping facilitate the conversation regarding mandated categoricals. So Dan represented our district, and Dan, was it everything you thought it would be?
It was actually better. Nina was with me, so that was awesome. I didn't know until she sat next to me. It was a really good, there was legislators there talking about a real problem, our mandated categoricals, which think of like our transportation reimbursement that we get from the state. It is massively underfunded. And it's a problem, if it's a problem for us, it's a problem for every other school district way worse than us. And it's a problem for us. And so it was a great to kind of stir and have a lot of legislators there to talk through it.
Well, thank you so much.
Nina, anything from CDOL?
No, nothing to report today.
Next up, we have the future agenda items. Is there anything that anyone would like to review in there or add to the agenda? Well, with that, I'd like a motion and second to adjourn the meeting.
Poland, so moved.
Second.
Cheryl, you know what to do?
It's a voice vote.
Ms. Whitehorse.
All in favor?
Any opposed?
Just-
No.
Okay.